Of the Half Moon Bay City Council for May 19th, 2026.
Recording in progress.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Nagengast.
Here.
Mayor Reddick.
Here.
We have a quorum.
As a reminder, if you are joining this meeting via Zoom, you can still make public comment. During any public comment portions, attendees may use the raise your hand feature and will be called upon and unmuted when it is your turn to speak. If joining by phone, use *9 to raise your hand, *6 to mute and unmute. We also have Spanish interpretation services available in person and via Zoom. On Point Language Solutions is in the back left corner if anyone needs assistance with interpretation services. On Point will now provide information on how to receive interpretation services if you are in need of them.
Test. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Honorable council members, Mr. Chittister, Ms. Bizzano, Ms. Rodriguez, all city staff, members of the public, Victor Hernandez, Spanish interpreter. Buenas tardes. Les queremos dejar saber que se les proporcionará interpretación en vivo de toda esta reunión en español, y para poder acceder lo que son los servicios de interpretación por vivo en Zoom, ya sea con una computadora o una portátil, haga clic en lo que es un icono del globo terráqueo, es decir, un mundo que aparecerá al fondo de su pantalla, seleccione el idioma. Ahora, si usted está usando un teléfono inteligente, una tableta, busque el menú de 3 puntos, seleccione interpretación, luego seleccione el idioma español y por último haga clic en Done o Listo. Si usted quiere alzar la mano por teléfono, pulse estrella 9 y para desilenciar sería la estrella o estrella 6. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Victor. All rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Before we begin, I want us to take a couple of minutes of silence in honor of former Half Moon Bay Council member and Mayor Al Andravino. Please join me now. Thank you very much. The next item is the approval of the agenda, but I'm requesting that we move item 4, which is Mayor's announcements of community activities and community service, up to this next item before proclamations and presentations, because we are going to have a few minutes to honor Al Andravino, who passed away, I believe, over this past weekend. Could I get a motion and a second to move item 4 to ahead of item 3?
So move. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So, Al Andravino was an extraordinary person in the history of Half Moon Bay. He served for 12 years on the council. He was mayor 4 times, but he also served in many other capacities. He served on Half Moon Bay Planning Commission, the Coastside County Water District, the San Mateo County Farm Bureau, the Half Moon Bay Chamber of Commerce, the Northern California Flower and Growers and Shippers Association, California State Association of Florists, Our Lady of the Pillar Council, Knights of Columbus, and provided countless contributions to other community organizations. So he was a community builder. Our community is the way it is now because of the efforts of Al Endervino, as well as many others, but a unique character. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him because I think it's important. He was born to Giabata and Maria Andrevino, immigrants from Italy. He was born in 1923 in San Francisco, California. He grew up on a truck farm in Colma, California, where vegetables were grown and sold. He attended grammar schools in South San Francisco and Daly City until enrolling in San Mateo Junior College, where he graduated in February 1943. That same year, he was drafted to the Army Corps of Engineers and sent to Virginia for training. And after training, was selected to remain as an instructor. In 1945, he was selected to one of 2 elite teams to be flown to island of Leyte in the Philippines to teach the engineering fundamentals of Bailey bridges. During that training, his elite teams that he was responsible for were required to train during the active invasion of Okinawa. After the Japanese surrender, Al was sent to Korea with other occupation troops from returning home and being discharged in 1946. When he returned home, Al started work at a flower nursery in 1946 and ultimately took over the Daylight Nursery in 1947 with his father. In 1953, Al and his father sold the nursery and purchased a ranch in Half Moon Bay. Al met the love of his life, Ida, at the San Francisco Flower Market in 1946, and they wed on October 4th, 1947, and remained in a beautiful union that lasted 71 years and 24 days. So Al faithfully served as mayor of Half Moon Bay in 1970, 1971, 1976, and 1979. So he's been a devoted member of the Half Moon Bay community for over 70 years. And I already talked about all the various organizations he was part of. He was a real icon of the Half Moon Bay community, and we will miss him. And he was just short of his 103rd birthday, I understand. He still had his wits about him. And my personal story about Al was, a few years ago, I went to Fancy Nails to get a pedicure, and I sat down in my chair, and I looked to the person next to me, and it was Al. So we got our feet taken care of, our tootsies groomed, and had a lovely conversation. So I will never forget that. So tonight we honor Al Endervino and his family for all they've done, and we're actually going to adjourn the meeting in his honor as well. And I would invite other council members to comment, and then I'll invite members of the community in this room or online who want to talk about Al to do so as well.
I just want to say thanks to Al for everything he's done. I met him when I was on the planning commission. This is when I was doing all that Castle Del Mar and the ditch and the Kehoe ditch and things. And I went to him and went up to Ida and John and met Al. And he gave me details of things that I had read and verbatim. He had memorized in his head. I mean, he knew everything and he remembered everything. The Lanster property, the Marguerite property, when the Lutheran church was built, why they built it, why the berm was there, all the things that I read, he had memorized. And so that's my first meeting. And then later on, he was pushing me to be on council. And I said, I can't. I'm not a citizen. I'm Swedish born, and I've got a green card. It doesn't work. So that went for a couple of years, and then I finally got my citizenship, and now I'm doing it. But he was pushing me, and he was telling me to do it, and Naomi was pushing me to do it. So he was a person that gave me a lot of influence, and he was the guy that was the one that said, you should do this. I have faith in you. So I have a lot of love for Al. I just saw him 2 weeks ago, and John's sitting there, and Al's sitting on the couch. Ida's over in the kitchen doing her kitchen duties, and we're talking about the political stuff, and not current stuff. It was old stuff, and it was kind of interesting. I wanted to see, why were the moths going over to Castle Del Mar and eating the crops, and why did they? He had the answer for all this stuff, the stuff that I had read, and I was just blown away. And he's sharp as a nail, or whatever the words you want to say. He had it. His mind was clear. clear. And it's sad that he passed, but I got to say, he's had a great life. I've seen him on Facebook. He used to text me for his love of his wife, and I remember meeting, it was Ida also and his wife years ago up at the other house, above your house there. And I just remember just hanging out. We were just hanging out. So he will definitely be missed, and I got to say he was a great person, and this town benefited a lot from Al Alderino. I got to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody else? Paul?
Yes, Edith and John, I'll miss Al. I met Al, I was fortunate to meet him about a year and a half ago. First time I actually met him. I've seen him around. I know he's an icon, but I was fortunate enough to talk with him and meet with him and learn what an inspiration that anything's possible. You know, why I became a council member, I wanted my son to know that anything's possible that you can do here. And it was wonderful to see him here when I was being sworn in. I know he swore you in. So it was, I think he's done more than maybe you realize. Just the conversations, not just with you, and I'm sure maybe you get tired of him. Okay, Dad. But he was an inspiration to me to know that what I'm doing isn't wrong. It was the right thing to do. So I'm glad I was fortunate enough to have met him.
Edith and John, would you like to remark this evening?
Thank you so much for this honor for my dad. And all I want to say is he would be humbled and surprised and honored by your show of care for him and what he did. He never did anything for personal gain. He did it for his love of Half Moon Bay and the community and service. He was really proud of what he did for the Cabrillo Unified School District. He worked hard and fought for what he believed in, like I think you all are trying to do very hard. You just have to follow your heart, get your facts and information, and you have to make the decisions that you feel are the best for you. That's what he always did, and I know you all will too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's such an honor also. When I got home from the Navy in Vietnam, I married a flower grower's daughter. And so instead of going to the market at 5 in the morning, and we started to go at midnight and 10 o'clock at night. So we were good nappers at stop signs. But anyway, it's so great. And I got his hat here tonight in his memory. As a World War II vet, and now with the service coming up, the veterans came in yesterday or today?
Today.
Today, and they want to do a big memorial for him come up in June, right?
Thank you.
But we're not going to do it on Main Street. We could do it at the Pumpkin Farm if we could, and we could talk to law enforcement about and thank them so much. And yeah, no, he's so special. And last story, our grandson's a senior at Carlmont High School, and he came over about World War II history, and he wanted to talk to great-grandpa about it, and it's good he's sharing this with everybody. And the other thing that Al shares with our family and myself too, Anita, always be a giver and not a taker in Half Moon Bay, and all of you are doing that. You're giving of your life and time. What's that?
Yep, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Please keep us apprised of, any funeral arrangements or celebrations of life. We would appreciate that. Yeah, I forgot to mention, here's a couple of things. So Al was chair of the school bond committee that built the new Half Moon Bay High School in its present location. And if anybody knows about campaigns, that's a lot of work. He was also a member of the unification committee that unified the 3 separate school districts into one, the Cabrillo Unified School District. Another, momentous achievement. So I didn't want to let that go. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to remark about Al? Joaquin.
Thank you. I heard about Al even before I moved to Half Moon Bay. My father came to Half Moon Bay from Watsonville. He was employed by Al in '79, and that's how we landed here in Half Moon Bay in '87. So my father used to speak very fond of him, Al. When we moved to Half Moon Bay, we lived on Johnson Street, so he was always making comments about his experience working for Al and moving to Half Moon Bay. I met Al first time I had a conversation with him. I met him, but it was a couple years ago, and I told him who I was. I told him my father, Felix, who was one of his workers in '79, and we took a picture, and I sent it to my father, who was in Mexico at the time. And he said, yeah, he has fond memories. He still looks the same. He was, so that's, my condolences to the family. And, it's an honor to continue the legacy, of council members and mayors of Half Moon Bay, and also, the farming of the community. So again, we owe a lot, to Al, and he will always be remembered. And I shared with my father today that Al had passed, so he also sends his condolences.
Thank you for that, Joaquin. If there's no other speakers, maybe we can ask folks online if there's anybody who would like to comment. All right. Thank you very much for coming tonight and sharing this with us. Appreciate it. I think I made a mistake. I think we need to go back and actually approve the agenda. We approved moving up item 4, but I think we need to actually move approval of the agenda as is now with that change.
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So item 5, report out from, we're going to do proclamations and presentations now. And the first one is National Public Works Week proclamation.
Madam Mayor, would you like me to make some remarks first?
Sure, and then I'll
Great.
read the proclamation.
Yeah, so this is always a fun time of year. It's something we like to celebrate each year. This is actually nationwide National Public Works Week. Public Works is really at the core of what we do in local government, both cities and counties. It's the work that we do to maintain our roads, to keep our community looking beautiful. It's ensuring that our community's safe through our engineers and through the work that our staff does. And, so much of that work bleeds out into the rest of the organization, but it is great to be able to take a step back and recognize these great men. There are women involved too, but the men showed up tonight, and we're so proud and grateful of this team. This whole team is co-siders, which is pretty awesome. We're including Pacifica in that broader group. Mike, we'll get you here. We got Mason. We'll get you here too. And I have worked alongside many of these folks, including probably they didn't want me there, but in the middle of the night, in storms and floods, and they really do. They're 24/7, and they're committed to the community, and I'm just very proud to be associated with this group of employees and this team, and they do incredible work for the community, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to recognize them tonight and the rest of the week, and we have some other things planned for them. But with that, I'd like to turn the time over to the mayor to read the proclamation.
So the proclamation is to celebrate Public Works Week from May 18th, yesterday, through May 24th. Whereas public works professionals focus on facilities, infrastructure, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Half Moon Bay, And whereas these facilities, infrastructure, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, including employees, engineers, and managers at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our community's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the residents, children, and civic leaders in Half Moon Bay to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas public works professionals play a vital role in disasters and other emergencies and are often considered the silent arm of public safety, working diligently, often without fanfare, to support emergency response partners, regardless of hazard. Public Works maintenance and operations staff are among the most visible and essential elements during the response and recovery phases of disasters, frequently among the first to arrive and the last to leave. They assist with rescue, evacuation, flood control, and sheltering, providing temporary traffic control and perimeter security, transport critical supplies and equipment, and restore damaged infrastructure, making their broad capabilities a critical component in nearly every type of disaster or emergency. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, now therefore be it known that the City Council of the City of Half Moon Bay does hereby designate the week May 18th to the 24th, 2026 as National Public Works Week. The City Council urges all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, employees, engineers, and managers to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Thank you. I'm going to let Councilmember Nagengast, our former Public Works Director, present this to you this evening.
And let me add on 333, that's March 3rd, 2003, I was the Public Works Director for the City of Half Moon Bay. So it's a privilege to present this to you, because I know what you guys do. I've been out there, and city manager referenced 2 in the morning. I don't know why rainstorms don't happen at noon on a Wednesday, but they somehow always are at 2 in the morning on a Saturday, or obviously somewhere else where you're not. But you're there. And I really want the community to see you and meet you and thank you, because we're too quick to recognize when things don't work. You know, we talk about no news is good news. Well, if we're not getting calls, that means it's out there working. The only time people complain is when something's not working. So I do, and I know my house thanks you for what you do, no matter the time of day or night. And so I appreciate it. And I love that backhoe out there. Nothing runs like a deer. Love to see that out there out front greeting everybody. So thank you for that.
Let's hear it.
All right, again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Armando. Okay, well, I just want to speak on behalf of my crew and my team and all my coworkers that we take a lot of pride in the work we do here, and we really look forward to the day when we go to work and we get to see our community. We get to make a little difference and make our community's life a little better, a little change, and know that we took part of that as well. So I just want to say thank you from my team and from me.
You make a difference every day. Don't forget that. Okay? All right. I don't see Midcoast here. Yeah. It doesn't look like we have a Midcoast Community Council update this evening. Is there anyone who would like to comment?
There's someone online with their hand raised.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, Kimberly Williams, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Kimberly, you could start when you're ready.
Hi, am I live? Scott couldn't come tonight, so he asked me to step in and let you know what was happening at our meetings recently. The MCC recently heard an update on county parks fire mitigation projects, of which there are many going on right now, along Highway 92 and further towards Pacifica past Devil's Slide, as well as various others. The Caltrans branch chief for Caltrans District 4 gave an informational presentation on the Surfers Beach Adaptation Concepts Plan report that Caltrans released last fall. They came to our meeting and the report was very interesting. It represents concept ideas for long-term potential project ideas for Highway 1 that might be considered for future planning. And Caltrans will have a web page up soon that will share this information with the public. So that was a really interesting thing that I think people care very much about. The other significant thing at our last meeting was the development of the local hazard mitigation plans process, which is currently in progress. The local hazard mitigation plan evaluates hazard mitigation vulnerabilities and outlines mitigation actions for local jurisdictions, which they will implement. It's a countywide effort involving 36 county jurisdictions and special districts, and the comment period is from May 15th to June 15th of this year. So I think that does involve Half Moon Bay, and so I encourage everyone to go and look at those plans. They're all included on that one site, and weigh in on what you think about them as they develop them. The last thing, which I think you know about and have noticed, is that the Highway 1 roadway rehabilitation project is underway in the Mid-Coast, and the SAM force main replacement project is also in process. So there currently are delays in the evenings on Highway 1 when the crews are working. And the force main project, I think also they are getting ready for that activity, which will start in a couple of months, but they're trying to coordinate so that they won't be breaking up pavement that has been recently laid down. So we'll see how that works out. I think those are the big things that the council heard recently at their meeting. Are there any questions or anything that I can respond to?
Thank you, Kimberly. Any questions from council members? I think not. We have a long meeting ahead, so I think we'll stop there, Kimberly. But thank you.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it. I just want to say to the city manager, I think it might be good for the council to hear about the update process for the local hazard mitigation plan. So if we could, at an upcoming meeting, hear a little bit more about that, have a report, city manager's report maybe. Okay. Okay, so the next item is report out from recent closed session meetings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening, the council met in closed session on 2 items. There are no reportable actions from those 2 items.
Thank you very much. The next item is commission and committee updates. We're going to hear about a report out from the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Dale Lita, interim city engineer. So we had our last Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting on May 7th, and we had one agenda item during that meeting. It was a presentation from Tool Design Group, who is helping to conduct community outreach as part of our Highway 1 access and mobility study, which is looking at, we're gathering community input and looking at concept improvements along Highway 1 between Highway 92 and Miramontes Point Road. So that was part of a week-long effort to reach out to the community. We had a public meeting that Wednesday the 6th and open studio Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So That BPAC meeting was specifically with BPAC and members of the public. And our next BPAC meeting will be July 2nd. Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to comment or ask questions about that item? You can come to the podium. Or if you're online, you can raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, we will move on to city manager updates to council. And we have a Main Street Bridge update.
Good evening, Mayor Reddick and council members. Yes, we are here to talk about the Main Street Bridge once again. We had a little bit of a setback, and we'll go through it. So as we mentioned last time, ARG Conservation Services has been hired to do the work on the stucco repairs. The way that they went about it was they actually took some samples of the concrete underneath the stucco work on top of it. They had a hard time developing the right mixture. So it took a little bit longer than we expected, and we had to essentially lose a week of work on the project. They have identified the correct mixture, and they're scheduled to start on Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. How that affects us, though, is that originally we had planned to start on the roadway. We were hoping to get out of the roadway before the last week of school. Since that is not going to be an option because of the week delay, what we're going to be doing first is shifting to the walkway sides of the bridge first. So the first 2 weeks or 9 days, essentially, we'll be working on the walkway sides of the bridge. There'll be little detours set up at Stone Pine and at Mill, just letting folks know that they just need to walk to the other side of the block and cross the bridge on the other side. Traffic will still be flowing through. We don't see any issues with that. With that, there will be a little bit of intermittent work going on Saturday. In order for us to get a smooth surface at the bottom of the stucco, what we're going to be doing essentially is picking up the boards that are existing right now and moving them over about 4 inches so that the craftsman can come in and kind of work the new stucco underneath where the new wood would be going. So we're just giving them a little bit of a work zone, if you will, to get in there and do their finishing when they get down to that area. We'll probably have similar detours set up on Saturday where one pedestrian side of the bridge will be closed at a time, and we'll be able to kick people to the other side, and hopefully we'll get out of there sooner rather than later. We're going to start on the east side and then head over to the west side. That's our tentative plan at this point. After we finish the walkway sides, single lane closure traffic control is the current plan for the next 2 weeks of the project. That's going to be starting June 8th. The benefit to the project being delayed a week is that we're going to miss school traffic. So school will already be out completely, and we were able to kind of modify the work hours of the project to more typical work hours like 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., whereas before we were proposing a little bit later of a start to allow folks more time to get their children to school. So it's a blessing and a curse in that regard. If we start June 8th, we're still scheduled to be done 2 weeks after that, so well before 4th of July when we have a huge influx of visitors into town. And again, the roads are restricted roughly from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We're looking at options. We're discussing, the industry standard is single lane closure traffic control where there's flaggers on each end. We're looking at different options to see if something works. Obviously, we'll be out there monitoring the situation closely. We want to make sure traffic's flowing. We'll be messaging people starting after the Memorial Day weekend on our changeable message signs on Highway 92, giving people a heads up. We'll keep the beach messaging up for the Memorial Day weekend, but after the Memorial Day weekend kind of subsides, then we'll start messaging for the Main Street Bridge, giving people as much notice as we possibly can. The chamber's been involved. I'm meeting with Colleen Henney tomorrow kind of to go over it with the rest of the business community. E-News, all of our socials, we're pushing this thing out as hard as we possibly can because there will be some traffic impacts, especially on Main Street, and we want everyone to be aware of it. And the benefit to that is when this thing's done, we're hopeful that the bridge is going to look amazing with a new coat of stucco and a new coat of paint. So a little bit of an inconvenience, but we're expecting great results from this contractor that we have.
And it'll be safer for all pedestrians, too.
All pedestrians, absolutely.
Yep, great. Any questions from council members? Councilmember Johnson?
Todd, do you know if when you do pull that stucco back, what's the condition of the wood back there? Is there any dry rot or any termite damage? Because you're right there below the creek, and that's a water source for termites.
Well, underneath the stucco is primarily concrete. So we'll probably run into more of those issues in phase 2 of the project when we actually start addressing the woodwork part of it. The concrete, talking over with the contractor when we met for our pre-construction meeting last week, it's actually pretty cool. The concrete is what they call a Davenport mix. So there was actually a concrete plant in Davenport in 1900, and that's where the mixture from the concrete came from. So that's basically what's underneath all of that stucco work is Davenport mixed concrete from 1900. So they showed me some samples of the sand that they're going to be matching up with in their mixture for the concrete. So we don't expect any termite issues when we do the stucco work. When we do the temporary work, we're only going to be moving them about 4 inches. So just basically enough for someone to get their hand in there. If we identify some termite stuff, that's honestly good information for us because we can use that for planning for the next phase of the project if it gets approved, like what areas we specifically need to address to mitigate any termite damage that's under that woodwork.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you for that report out. Is there anyone in the room who would like to address this item? Or online? You can raise your hand now. Seeing no one, we will move on. So the next item is public forum. And looking at the room and online, you will have a total of 3 minutes. And the first speaker is Rocio Avila Garcia. Followed by Joaquin Jimenez.
Buenas noches, miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es Rocío Ávila, miembro del Comité de Vivienda Asequible y líder comunitario.
Good evening, council members. My name is Rocio Avila. I'm a member of the Community Affordable Housing Unit.
Me gustaría agradecerle a la vicealcalde Deborah Penrose, que hoy no está aquí presente, a Robert Brownstone y Patrick Johnson por haber salvado a la ciudad de Half Moon Bay de una posible demanda por parte del estado de California.
So I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Deborah Penrose, who unfortunately is not here tonight, Robert Brownstone, and Patrick Johnson for saving Half Moon Bay from a possible lawsuit on part of the state of California.
No sé cuántos saben de la comunidad, no sé cuánto sabe la comunidad sobre esto, pero si ustedes no hubieran aprobado el proyecto de 555 Kelly, Half Moon Bay estaría en un riesgo enorme de perder fondos para infraestructura, recibir multas muy altas e incluso ser demandada por el Estado. ¿Y quién pagaría por todo esto? Seríamos nosotros los contribuyentes.
So I don't know how many people in the community know about this, but if you guys would have not approved the 555 Kelly project, then Half Moon Bay would be at risk, a huge risk, to lose out on funds for infrastructure, be penalized with high amounts, and as a matter of fact, it would be a lawsuit by the state. And who would pay for all of this? Well, it would be us, the ones that contribute to it.
¿Acaso a los otros miembros del concilio no les importa esto?
So, does anybody care on the council about this?
¿Le han explicado a la comunidad los riesgos que existen por no construir vivienda asequible? ¿Le han explicado a la comunidad qué es el Builder's Remedy y lo cerca que está Half Moon Bay de enfrentar una demanda estatal?
Has anybody explained to the community the risks that exist for not building affordable housing? Has anybody explained to the community what builder's remedy is or how close Half Moon Bay was for this state lawsuit?
La ciudad ya ha sido demandada anteriormente y eso llevó a la quiebra. ¿Realmente quieren que lleguemos a esta situación otra vez?
So the city has been sued before and it went broke. So honestly, do you want for us to be in that same situation again?
Así que repito mi agradecimiento a los miembros del concilio que sí les importa su comunidad y son realmente responsables fiscalmente. Gracias.
So once again, I want to repeat myself in thanking all of the members of the council because I know that community is important to you and you are really fiscally sound and responsible. Thank you.
Gracias. The next speaker is Joaquin Jimenez, followed by Anita Reese.
Está bien, gracias. Let me see if I can figure this one out.
Get real close.
Got it? Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. My name is Joaquin Jimenez, Joaquin Murrieta in social media, and I am a candidate for San Mateo County Supervisor, District 3. And I want to, Rocio, thank you for your comment. It was on point. And thank you to the council members and the vice mayor for approving the contract of 555 Kelly. It's a very important decision to make. With that, I also would like to mention, now that 555 Kelly has been approved, why not look into our local contractors, to start working, on projects like this? Why not giving the opportunity to local businesses to work in something significant like 555 Kelly here in Half Moon Bay? As you know, part of my platform is to protect, the community of the coastside that we know for sure, for a fact, and it's been proven that has been neglected by San Mateo County. And this is not only Half Moon Bay, but Pacifica saying the same thing. They're dealing with the same thing, and we are getting the short end of the stick, So protecting our community, like I mentioned earlier, Al Adrubino, Farmer John, who have been in a legacy of Half Moon Bay, of our farming community. It's to our interest, to continue to farm in our community, protecting our open spaces. It comes food production, new businesses, new farmers, and protecting and supporting our farmers and our ranchers. It's something that we have to think about. And nobody's talking about food production or food security. 1 in 6 in San Mateo County are in the SNAP program. What are we going to do when the federal government takes away these funds? How are we going to be able to support this, or veterans, or homeless population, or children, or seniors? We can produce the food here in our community, to offer to them. Also, there's a lot of interest in vocational trades, to come to the coast. Plumbers, electricians, concrete workers, carpenters, everything. This is a new era. There's a shortage of carpenters in California. There's a shortage of electricians in California. And we can actually provide support with that. Bringing those trades, those vocational trades into our community is a big benefit. It is difficult for people in Pescadero to go over the hill to go to any of these trades. It takes about 2 hours. He has to drive one way. Half Moon Bay, the same thing. So that's why, I have a platform, doing that, bringing that to our community to support or graduating seniors or young adults to work, a new career. So, Joaquin Jimenez, running for San Mateo County Supervisor because we need representation. We need somebody that actually cares about our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Anita Reese, followed by Armando Avila.
Hello, my name is Anita Reese. I'm with the Unhoused on the Coast Outreach Program. It's a program of the Pacifica Resource Center, primarily funded by the San Mateo County Center on Homelessness. We provide outreach and engagement and case management services to unhoused folks from Pacifica to Pescadero with the goal of helping them return to housing. Our outreach staff is available 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from 9 to 5. And we generally respond to outreach requests within 3 hours during that time. If you see someone outside, sleeping outside in a vehicle or in another place not meant for habitation, please email us at ucoutreach@pacresourcecenter.org or call us at 650-452-6279. As of today, there are 41 individuals who are unhoused in Half Moon Bay. This is actually down 25% from the 55 that I shared back in March. There are 4 encampments with 10 folks and 31 people who are not currently in encampments. So as you consider ways to address homelessness in Half Moon Bay, I encourage compassion, empathy, creativity, and partnering with neighboring communities on a regional response. I especially like Mayor Ruddick's idea a few meetings ago about using campgrounds as an interim shelter, and we have been exploring that possibility. And so hopefully I'll come back one day to let you know what we figured out. And I just want to thank city staff and the community in general for being partners in our work to help unhoused folks return to housing.
Thanks for all you do. The next speaker is Armando Avila, followed by, there's not a name on this, it's Procedural Ideas. Is that you, Nancy? Nancy Fontana? Is this Nancy? Okay. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I think Mr. Avila will provide his comment, and I'll provide you with the site translation afterwards.
Hola, buenas tardes, miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es Armando Ávila. Half Moon Bay no ha construido una cantidad significativa de viviendas accesibles durante 30 años, más o menos 30 años. Las viviendas de Stone Pine son importantes, pero también son una respuesta a la tragedia y a la atención de los medios de comunicación que exigieron viviendas dignas y accesibles. Durante años hemos hablado sobre las condiciones de viviendas en Half Moon Bay y no nos creyeron. No fue hasta que ocurrió la tragedia y los medios comenzaron a reportarlo con toda esa atención. Ustedes realmente se preocuparon cuando creemos que cuando les decimos que existe una necesidad real y urgente de viviendas accesibles, construyan más viviendas accesibles ya. Una cosa más que no está aquí en el papel es que algunos miembros de aquí, no sé por qué, tienen esa idea de que no quieren ayudar a la gente más necesitada. Yo he venido aquí ya de algo de tiempo, he visto aquí cómo se han parado muchas personas bien necesitadas, casi llorando, les han pedido que por favor aprueben y no lo han aprobado. Eso es todo lo que tengo que decir.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Armando Avila. Half Moon Bay hasn't really constructed any significant affordable housing in nearly 30 years. That housing over in Stone Pine are important, but also it's a response to the tragedy and all of the attention from the media that demanded housing, dignified and affordable housing. So for many years, we have talked about the conditions of housing in Half Moon Bay, and you didn't believe us. It wasn't until the tragedy occurred and all of the media attention reported it, and that's when they got the attention, and you all were really worried about that. Believe us when we say that there exists a real necessity, an urgent necessity for affordable housing. So please construct more affordable housing now. And this is something else that isn't really on here, but one more thing, there's some people, and I don't know why this happens, but there's some people that really need help, and it's the people that need the most help. And I've seen a lot of people here almost crying for help, and they really weren't getting it. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Gracias, thank you. The next speaker is Nancy Fontana, and then I'm going to go online.
Hi, Mayor and City Council and members of the public. Nancy Fontana. I'm here more on a procedural item. I noticed at the last meeting, as everybody probably remembers, that the applicant got documents into the council very late. I don't think that's fair for anybody. Certainly not the council, not staff, not members of the public. The only ones it was convenient for was the applicant. And I don't think it allowed anyone enough time to really review it. I feel that the city could put in place a deadline by which applicants get their documents in, especially if it's at a meeting, not a study session. More importantly, at a meeting where they have to make a final decision, especially one as important as a 99-year lease. So I would really like that pursued. I don't know if there would be legal problems with that. And I can imagine some exceptions, like if the council asked the applicant questions that they needed to get data back from somebody and they hadn't, but they could still have most of the document available to the council. It was really awful that those documents were so late. Oh gosh, there was something else I was going to bring up. Oh, also was the scheduling of those two really big items on one meeting. I understand it was probably good because people only had to come to one meeting. They were interested in both, but it really shortened the public's testimony. And the public hearings are so you can hear public input, and that was difficult. I know there's a lot of repetition and people go on and on. That gets difficult too. But what it did is it fogged the lines between the subject. They spoke about it during public forum. They crossed lines, and I don't think the mayor should have to sit there and pound on her gavel all the time and correct people, because that's just not a pleasant way to have to operate a meeting. But scheduling them all together makes it possible. It makes it difficult, excuse me. Lastly, it's interesting that, I wasn't going to say this because I didn't know it was necessary, but lastly, San Mateo County is doing stuff. The last speaker, Ms. Reese, she just indicated that San Mateo funds her organization that reaches out from Pacifica through the South Coast. So that's one thing. And I do know also that San Mateo County has funded loans to ranchers and farmers who provide housing on their properties to improve the housing, because they don't get much rent for it, but they, I'm sure, pay top dollar when anything needs to be fixed. So those are two sources I know they do. There are probably more. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. The next speaker is Evelyn D'Souza.
Good evening, Mayor Ruddock, council members, and city staff. Firstly, I would like to thank a big thank you to Leslie Lacko, our City Planning Director, and Scott Phillips, Senior City Planner, for taking the time to meet with me and a couple of other residents from Poplar Street regarding 940 Main Street. Today, my comment relates to community awareness, coordination, and preparedness around this as a major development project. In addition to the June 4th community session that Mid-Penn Housing is hosting at Senior Coast Siders, we respectfully ask that the council support city staff in facilitating additional outreach sessions tailored to the different affected groups, for example, Seacrest, Senior Coast Siders, nearby residents, the fire district, and other stakeholders. Different demographics will experience these projects differently, and broader engagement can help ensure strong awareness, understanding, and constructive dialogue. We also ask that the city take a coordinated, big-picture approach to planning should multiple major projects move forward with overlapping timeframes. For example, 555 Kelly, 940 Main Street, potential Highway 1 expansion activity, the Hyatt project, or other significant developments that we may not be aware of. If those projects proceed concurrently, it is important that operational provisions, traffic management, emergency access, and evacuation planning be considered proactively versus ad hoc. That would include practical questions such as construction staging, haul routes, where construction and dump trucks will go, impacts on seniors, school access, emergency response, and community evacuation readiness. So to sum up, my request is twofold. Firstly, with supporting city staff in facilitating those additional outreach sessions. And secondly, that we plan so that growth is managed safely, transparently, and with the community fully informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. The next speaker is Carolina Carbajal, followed by Pepper Black.
Buenas noches a todos.
Good evening, everyone.
Venimos otra vez para hacer hincapié no solo en las viviendas,
Here we are yet again to not only talk about housing,
sino que también debemos de hacer una reforma a nuestro sistema de renta.
but we also need to make some changes to our rent system.
El problema es que actualmente, como ustedes ya eliminaron nuestra protección contra la renta,
The problem is that since you guys have already removed the rent control,
se está viendo un aumento sustancial de incumplimientos acerca de los derechos de los renteros.
we are seeing a substantial rise of people who are violating the rights of the renters.
Y creo que como miembros de la comunidad merecemos también que nos respeten en ese aspecto.
And I believe that as members of the community, we also deserve to be respected in that aspect.
Ya que lamentablemente hacer el eslabón más débil de esta cadena nos violentan fácilmente nuestros derechos.
Since we are unfortunately just another part of this long chain, our rights end up being not respected.
Como hay muchas personas que se preocupan por el aumento de la renta de $1 dentro de 90 años,
I know there are a lot of people who are worried about the increment of rent for $1 in 90 years.
Para nuestro proyecto de la 55 Kelly,
for our project of 555 Kelly,
sí también deberían de preocuparse por el aumento de la renta actual a todos los trabajadores de la costa.
You should also worry about the raising in the current rent for the people who are working in the coast.
Cuando se está haciendo de una forma ilegal y violentando nuestros derechos.
When it is being done illegally and against our rights.
Y lastimosamente pagamos nuestros impuestos, pero no tenemos a dónde irnos a quejar de eso.
And unfortunately, we pay our taxes, but we have nowhere to go to complain about that.
Así que como miembros de la comunidad que pagamos impuestos, también debemos de exigir, y le estamos exigiendo, que hagan una corrección al control de la renta.
So since we are taxpayers and community members, we are demanding to have a correction on the rent control.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much.
Gracias, thank you. The next speaker is Pepper Black.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mayor Ruddick and council members, thank you for your time. With the 555 Kelly project, I see beyond the fulfillment of just basic universal human needs. I envision a 555 Kelly open and in operation as a legacy of Half Moon Bay that can draw attention as a community model to be emulated across the world. This would be a community model of safety, inclusion, warmth, diversity, in a community of already incredible natural beauty, and with its quaint artistry and uniqueness of the walkable downtown. And the 555 Kelly can stand for a beautiful town with a heart of gold, showing the world a caring, admirable, ethical, full-service home for retired farm workers who might otherwise be being left behind to suffer isolation, loneliness, and homelessness. And I'm looking forward to sharing the opening of 555 Kelly with pride and with joy. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Susie Marashi.
Hello, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. I am just calling in tonight to inform and invite everyone to the IDES Society of Half Moon Bay's 155th Annual Portuguese Pentecost Festival, which is taking place this weekend. We hope that you will all be there. This is one of, if not the oldest celebration on the coast side, and rich in tradition and fun, and we hope that you will all make it.
Thank you for the invitation. I understand it's Saturday and Sunday, or is it Saturday, Sunday, and Monday?
We start on Friday night. There's traditional folklore dances that's Friday night. Saturday in the evening, we have a procession to church where we pray the rosary and come back, and the queens from 2025 will exchange their crowns, and there's introductions, and we have a Portuguese musician who will be playing music and dancing. And then on Sunday is the big festival where we have over 21 other Portuguese organizations from around California visiting. Well, there'll be a procession to church, a mass, and the traditional feeding, which is really what this event is about, is feeding the people of our community. So it is open to everyone. Have a lunch, some wine, some water, and just enjoy the day. And then we have a live auction on Sunday. And this year we are teaming up with two nonprofit organizations. The Cougar Boosters, the high school wrestling team, will be running kids activities on Sunday, and there will be a dunk tank. So if you have anybody that would like to get dunked, please volunteer. One of our council members will be there on Monday when the Boys and Girls Club is running the kids events. Council member Nagengast has volunteered to be in the dunk tank from, I believe, 1:30 to 2:30. So come on down. We also have Cameron Palmer will be there as well on Monday. We're open for lunch again on Monday and the auction. It's going to be a fun weekend, and we really hope the community comes out.
Sounds like a wonderful weekend. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
All right. So moving back to in the room, we have a form from, I think it's Heather Shirley.
Good evening. I was just curious about the 555. You know, all I've been able to read is about farm workers and things of that nature, and I was just curious if fishermen would be allowed in there. We are an agricultural unit. You know, I grew up farming, but I'm a fisherman now. I'm currently doing a learning program to try to get my 100-ton United States Coast Guard 100-ton master's certificate. The fellows down here are being pretty cool. They're giving me some wheel time and some current sea time to accrue current hours the right way, legitimate. I've got years of experience, and I stepped away from the coastside for several years, and I'm back now, and I'm ready to do it. And I will tell you, you know, I have some real concerns about some of the marginalized people in our community. not just myself, but a lot of good people and a lot of people facing a lot of problems other than just being unhoused. You know, before I moved back here, I fled a home because of really, really scary circumstances, you know. And I never realized how naive I was to a lot of things. And when I came here, I'm ready to work. The first thing I do is hit the streets, get a job, go to work either for Furtado in Princeton or, you know, kicking tires on the boats down there, guys that I know are new guys. And I go to get some assistance, and all I hear is homeless this, homeless that. You know, I might not have a lease of my own, but I know how to do it. And if it was there and available, more readily available, I think it'd be a lot easier for people. And I'm not homeless. My home is Half Moon Bay, and I like to be welcomed as such. I don't want to be considered, you know, on the outskirts because I don't have a lease. And, you know, seeing people like this and people I've worked with alongside in the plants, I really think there's a big stigma in different parts of our community that people aren't looking at. You know, they say, oh, this guy's this, or, you know, he's got to live with 15 guys, and they think it's a joke. It's not. You don't know what that guy studied back in Mexico. You don't know what that woman did with her life in, you know, Guatemala. You don't know who they are. You're making very, very serious assumptions. And anyway, I really hope that 555 is available to more people than just farmers. There's a lot of people need that, and it's a very, very serious thing. And I'm kind of unprepared. And I also asked a question, you know, I'm going to have to make a 4-mile walk back down to the harbor tonight. I'm fishing in the morning, and I'm working on a really bum leg. I've been kind of crippled up. I'm a middle-aged, disabled woman. And I'm going to make a 4-mile walk home because that last bus is rolling out right now. And by gosh, I'm glad I stayed because there's people with really important stuff to say here tonight. Thank you for hearing me and my alert dog Bubba out.
Absolutely. Maybe there's someone in this room who would give you a ride, you know?
Well, I got to check my phone. I put the word out, but I walked it before, and I'm willing to do it again. Thank you.
Leslie, would you like to come to the, are you offering a ride? Oh, okay. Sorry? Great. Yeah, I don't know how the rules of 555 Kelly will be interpreted. Agriculture is pretty broad, you know, maybe, but we do have another affordable housing project coming forward at 940 Main Street that will be wide open to families, farm workers, singles, and others. And that's a happening thing, so just wanted to leave everybody with that message. But it was good hearing from Heather, and I resonate with that experience. I'm sure there's a lot more. We're trying hard here. I don't see anybody. I have no other forms. I don't see anybody online, so I'm going to close public forum, and we're going to move to the consent calendar. And I'm going to read what's on the consent calendar, and then if anybody would like to address, anybody in the audience or online would like to address any of those items, you can do so. And then we will ask council members if there's anything they want to pull. So I'll start by reading, and that is the consent calendar consists of item 9A, waive reading of ordinances and resolutions. Item 9B, approve minutes of the May 5th, 2026 special meeting. 9C, approve minutes of the May 5th, 2026 regular meeting. 9D, accept the warrants for the month of April 2026. Item 9E, financial report for the quarter ended on March 31st, 2026. Item 9F, Senate Bill 1, local streets and road improvement project list for 2026-27. Item 9G, receipt of legislative position letter on the return to county funds, return to source funds from the Senate Bill 63 measure that is likely to be on the ballot. Item 9H, amendment to the agreement with the County of San Mateo for animal control services. And that's it. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address any of those items, or anybody online, you can address this item now. I don't see any speakers in the room. I don't see any online. Council members, is there any items that you want to pull for any reason? Okay, could I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Let's see, before we move on to resolutions and such, we have no ordinances and public hearings tonight, but we do have several resolutions and staff reports. Seeing as how we started meeting at 5:30, I'd like us to take a short break now, 5 or 10 minutes, if that's okay, because we have a lot of meat ahead. Thank you. To item 11A, which is the 2026 Summer Beach Update. Could you begin?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. I am Todd Seeley. I'm the interim public works director, and I know we have a busy, packed meeting tonight, and I'm joined by Chief Eamon Allen, who is the chief of the Coastside Patrol, and we are going to kind of walk you through, there's an annual update that we take every year, kind of just walking through the process for the Summer Beach Plan. It's very timely because the roads were jam-packed today. I'm sure as some of you are aware, the beach season is on us, and we are going to be receiving an influx of visitors. I was expecting to at least get to Labor Day, but nope, the high school kids showed up in force today. So let's kind of walk through what we're going to be doing. Our request this evening is to receive the 2026 Summer Beach Update on City and Sheriff's efforts for the notification, management, and enforcement for beaches and access points within city limits and provide feedback to staff. Background, we live in a very beautiful place. The San Mateo Coast, including Half Moon Bay, is a prime recreation destination for Bay Area and visitors around the world. Within city limits, there are several state and city beaches, including Half Moon Bay State Beach, which includes Francis, Venice, and Dunes Beach, Poplar Beach, Surfers Beach, and Manhattan Beach. We do have a link here for the city's beach website page if anyone would like to check it out. It has some good information about some of those locations. Tonight's focus is going to be on public outreach and notification, police patrol and enforcement, traffic and parking management, and public facilities and amenities. We'll start with public outreach and notification, how we get the word out about beach issues and traffic issues. We use 511, SMC Alert, and our variable message signs. We have several of those that we move throughout the coast depending on the weekend and what's going on that week. We kind of touched on that earlier for the Main Street Bridge and the messaging that we're going to have out for this current weekend coming up, which is Memorial Day weekend. We also use our social media channels, our e-news, and we coordinate with the Cabrillo Unified School District when they are in session, kind of just to make sure that they're aware of what's going on as well. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Allen, and he can walk you through the police patrol and enforcement part of this.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. We've already started upping our beach patrols. I'm happy to report that our Polaris is back in service. We've conducted in the last couple of weeks already some patrols on the beach with the Polaris. We've also upped our parking enforcement with regards to the parking lots there and making sure folks are paying for their parking and not overstaying their welcome to make sure that our visitors and residents will have parking there. We're looking at staffing up during the holiday season, starting this weekend. And then also we've already started working with the CHP lieutenant, having conversations about increased enforcement for traffic control, along with our partners in the California Highway Patrol. Excuse me, my phone is talking to me right when I'm talking.
To who?
I'm talking to the City Council, Siri, leave me alone. Sorry. As I mentioned, we're already working with the CHP. As far as traffic and parking management goes, as I mentioned, we're already upping our parking enforcement in those lots. And I mentioned we're speaking with CHP to ultimately, especially around Highway 1, they're responsible for that, but we partner with them as far as the side streets and all that.
All right, back to public facilities and amenities. Public Works, so it is Public Works Week, and thank you so much earlier for the recognition. I know that the Public Works staff really appreciated it, so I just want to take a minute to thank you guys for that. Is responsible for maintenance and operation of beaches, public parking lots, and portions of the coastal trail. We do supplement some of this by contracting out a little bit of trash cleanup with Abundant Grace and their Coastal Clean Team program. They primarily focus on Poplar Beach and the coastal trail, and a little bit of the neighborhoods in that area. The city's approach is to deploy maintenance staff to Poplar Beach and other city beaches 7 days a week, inclusive of Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day. Weekend coverage will primarily be provided via maintenance assistant. Other maintenance staff will be used for on-call demands such as warm inland temperatures as well as emergency coverage. We do have an informal SOP for the warm weather policy. We kind of base our decision to up staff on the temperature on the east side of the bay. So we look at the temperatures in Hayward. If it gets up to about 85 degrees in Hayward, we know almost with certainty that it is going to be a crazy day over here, because 85 in Hayward means it's 105 over the Altamont Pass. So once we get into 85 degrees in Hayward, we will bring additional staff in just to make sure that we're staying on top of the trash, we're staying on top of the debris, and just helping out the sheriff if they need help, or there's usually accidents. We assist their CSOs and their patrol officers with stuff like that. So we definitely monitor those situations every week just to make sure that we're staying on top of it. And I mentioned we monitor and replace signage, barricades, and other infrastructure. And then we ensure that the emergency life rings are in place and operational. We brought an item to you guys probably about 6 months ago for the Arune Foundation, and they're still up and operational, and we're super excited about that. The tides didn't take them out yet, and we're going to be continuing to monitor those and make sure that those are there for the community. Conclusion. There's going to be traffic. No matter what we do, there's going to be large amounts of traffic. We spend considerable time planning this at a staff level before we head out for the weekend, just to make sure that all of our bases are covered for the weekend, because we never know what's going to happen. I mean, today was a Tuesday in the middle of the week, and the temperature was just a little warm inland. And we had bumper-to-bumper traffic on Highway 1. So we know that it's going to be a crazy summer again. It is every year. And then once the summer dies down, then it leads into September and October and pumpkin time. And we know basically for the next 6 months we're going to be dealing with traffic. With that, we do take the beach stuff seriously. Another thing that we do is, if we are expecting a large influx of visitors to Poplar Beach, sometimes we just park our dump truck out there, put a sign on some plywood that says, "Put your trash here." That way it's easier for us to haul the trash. Just little things like that tricks of the trade that we've picked up over the years, just to make it easier to get stuff in and out of there and make sure that the areas are staying clean for everything. We also are hopeful to have 2 new parking machines installed at Poplar, which are more modern, and they'll have like tap to pay, app pay, stuff like that out. We're hopeful to have those in in the middle of the summer. I have a meeting with them tomorrow, but hopefully soon. So we'll have a more modern and robust parking solution out there so we can actually generate some revenue at Poplar as well. And with that, happy to take any questions from the council if they have any.
Councilmember Nagengast.
Thank you. That helps helps me explain when, my neighborhood parking is impacted to avoid $10 at the piece, or I don't know what Poplar's going for now, but to avoid the parking, they'll park in the neighborhoods, and it's parking. But you mentioned you coordinate with CHP. I see CHP sometimes sitting on the side streets to catch people running stop signs on Kelly. They do that for us?
So Kelly would be considered part of incorporated Half Moon Bay, so that would generally be our responsibility.
I've seen
they may
there.
be trying to get an easy statistic. I know there are some complaints about speeding on Kelly, so that's an issue.
No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's usually running the stop signs there.
Okay.
It's kind of awkward. Sometimes the stop signs can be blocked by a large piece of equipment, but the bicycles can go, they don't stop.
Yeah, they require stop as well.
It's awkward on Kelly at times, so I appreciate the presence there, because not just the speeding, but running the stop signs, and there's no formal walkways for folks, so they're walking in the bike lane, so it gets kind of crowded out there. So trying to keep the vehicles at a controlled, not only speed, but playing by the rules and using the stop signs. But I was kind of curious how you guys all intermingled, because the other thing I want to bring up, I noticed, and maybe Dale can help on this, is coordinating the timing of the signals. And we have time of day. We know that there's certain, during school, you want one to have a longer green or a shorter red. And then during weekends, I don't know if we coordinate with Caltrans on the timing. Is that something we do, or they implement it in? And if we do, or even if not, do we ever go out and provide police traffic control? If we know something is really bad, would we ever go out and just, all right, we're going to control this intersection, or do we not? We just let the Caltrans and the CHP handle that?
So typically, as long as the lights are functioning, we wouldn't go out and kind of take over traffic control, because it could be confusing and sometimes dangerous for not only staff, but also our residents and visitors. Generally, the time we would take it over would be if we have a power outage or something controlling the functioning of the lights. And then, our deputies are at liberty, or their CHP officers at liberty, to kind of use their discretion, especially if they see traffic backing up, to get an extended kind of flow through there.
Right. So would there be something we could, as a city, and maybe have police help too, or the sheriffs, about making sure our signals are timed correctly, especially on the weekends, coming and going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just anecdotally, we've noticed that since they've started the shop project, the signal timing has been a little off. So that's something that we can definitely look at before we get to, and maybe Dale's got it. Yeah.
I will just say the Caltrans shop team has been very responsive with regard to signal timing, and they've expressed that they'd be willing to work with us on making adjustments if we're seeing issues.
Right, because I think this with the summer, and they're still working, I know they have it, and I don't know what they set them on, but if you can advise them, we know Saturday afternoon it's going to be bad going north and east. Sunday, late afternoon, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, coming west and south. None of those signals are ours. They're all Caltrans. So it's kind of to try and get them to, address our concerns. That would be really good.
I'll make a point to bring it up at our next OAC meeting.
Yeah, especially with summer coming. Thanks.
Councilmember Brownstone.
Well, summer traffic is certainly one of the hot issues that comes up every summer. In fact, we have more people speaking to that during public forum after a weekend is over on a Tuesday, and people expressing all their concerns. I was thinking a couple of things. I wonder if we can leverage social media better in terms of, one, getting, current updates to folks out there about what coastal traffic at the beach, the beach report, and somehow get that out on popular social media areas and say, yeah, it's pretty tough out there, and the backup on 92, et cetera. I think people appreciate that because, they may or may not go on Waze and see what it's like, but if there's a reliable current update, that would be great. That's one social media opportunity. We have a full-time social media person now, and she's great. And I remember, I think it was Colleen, who was a prior handled a lot of our social media. She had a way of tracking what was going on some of the high school sites, because they'll immediately plan a party on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. You'll never know which neighborhoods they're going to show up in. And it might make it easier for sheriffs to say, oh, yeah, we need to pop over there instead of, it could help. The other thing is, what is the most reliable number for folks to call on a hot summer beach night at 11 o'clock when the convergence happens, right? That they can get a response. Because sometimes we got feedback, well, I tried calling, but there was nobody there. Yeah, so if we can kind of get something reliable, I think that would also help get you the most reliable in-the-minute information. Wow, I just saw 30 cars park around the corner, and kids are, folks are carrying coolers and stuff, just to get a heads up.
Sure, just to address that, the most reliable number would be the 650-363-4911. I wouldn't call any of the stations. That time of night, it's kind of hit or miss to catch somebody at a station, but that goes to our sheriff's dispatch, and especially if a group is massing and especially underage kids consuming alcohol, that's something we want to be made aware of so we can address it immediately before things kind of get out of control. So that would be the most reliable number and the way to get right to dispatch.
You said 363-4911?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, Matthew, if we can just keep that every weekend, hey, Summer Beach Report, this is where you can call, let us know, the sheriffs will be out patrolling, et cetera. And I think that way we could just have a consistent, way to keep sheriffs up to date and for people to feel that we're on it whenever we can. And some things, if it's 110 degrees, where people just need to know. And if you don't want people parking in front of your house, then get your cars out of your garages and park them in front of your house. So sometimes it's just some simple things we can recommend to folks.
Thank you. And just to address the social media, actually some messaging did go out today from the Sheriff's Office in partnership with the City of Half Moon Bay, which was really well done. And that was in partnership with our PIO, Gretchen Spiker, as well as Mari Jose from the city. So they already have formed a good working relationship, and I anticipate that would continue over the summer. So.
And your responsiveness has always actually been really great once we get the info over to you, so really appreciate that, and make sure all our beach vehicles will be working. Will be great. Thanks.
Anybody else?
The only thing, I've got a couple people that were hit me on the text, and I think, Paul, you were also on that too. It's about the trash, and they showed pictures, and it was pretty bad. I want to make sure that we stay on top of that, and it was up the popular beach. You remember that photo? And then it was about glass on the trails. Now, I'll just give you the example where I live, Casa Del Mar, and between the bridge and going, north, the trail, there was talking about broken glass. Who maintains that? Is that the rangers, or is that us?
Yeah, it's the state. So anything realistically north from Francis North is kind of maintained by the state. So state parks.
The other thing was the fences between the pathway and where the horse trail was, it's broken. Most of it's broken down. And I look at that as protection when the horses and Willa's horses are running down that area. They're all broken. So is that something we can talk about later? And because I'm looking at the safety and it doesn't look good. The wood's down on the ground. And they're eventually going to drag it and light it on fire down at the beach. That's what
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to drag it down to the beach anyways. I wasn't aware that it was broken. I was actually out there on the bluff top today removing some old sign poles that were brought to our attention, and I just should have turned my head to the left. Oh, on the state beach?
Yeah,
state trail, okay.
It's on the state side. It's between Jimmy Benjamin's house and all the way to the first beach there. It's all knocked down.
Yeah, we'll definitely let the state know that it's an issue, and hopefully they can address it. I thought we were talking about Split Rail and Poplar. My apologies.
And then on the horse safety, because I've done that trail with Willow and a whole group of people, and I got my feeling of, so there was a safety concern that she had when you go down to the beach, and we talked about it. I said, put some signs up, cones, say the horses go between this zone and this zone, because I did the ride and I know exactly where they go and they come back. And as the sheriff, you're aware of this and you know how that works. Do we have that in place? Do we feel it's safe for them? Because I look at dogs, horses, people, safety.
What area are we talking about here? Like on the bluff top area or actually down on the beach itself?
They go down to the beach. There's this little...
Through the slot, yeah, we call it the slot, yeah.
Right, and then at that point, they go a certain distance and they turn back around and they go back up the slot.
I'm not aware of ever putting cones or any sort of delineation out on the beach itself. I'm not sure if that's even acceptable from the Coastal Commission. We'd have to look into that, but...
Yeah, I don't think we've done that.
It was an idea that Willa had that she talked to you about, and I don't know if it ever came about.
Yeah, I don't recall that,
right.
but it's certainly something we can look at. And I think the bigger issue, as was mentioned, is making sure that we have the ability. The sheriff's office has the ability to get on the beach and do enforcement, which our chief has been doing a great job of. If you want to give an update on that and remind people that we do enforce.
And that was part of the thing, was because the Polaris was broken and there wasn't any track marks on the beach, so we knew that the sheriff wasn't patrolling, and these are things that people are feeding me. I'm not putting blame game here, but it was obvious the tracks weren't there and we knew that the machine was down. So now you're saying it's up and running and the patrols will start again.
Absolutely. So just in the last week and a half or so, we have gotten the Polaris back fully healthy, if you were. We've had to send it back a number of times for maintenance issues and overheating. That is up and running now. We've done 2 patrols this last week, and we'll continue to, probably at that same pace, continue to patrol as well. It is a staffing issue, sending 2 deputies out on the beach for a number of hours to do that, but it is an important issue to us, and we know it's an important issue to our residents, and we are enforcing the dogs off leash requirement.
With that said, can you get out to Willa and talk to her about that at the ranch? What is it, Seahorse Ranch? Is that what it is? Okay.
I am, yeah. We had a great conversation 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I explained to her the exact situation. I let her know actually the Polaris was back in service, and I'll continue to give her updates.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate it. That was it. I covered all mine. Thank you.
Okay, I have no speaker slips on this item. Is there anyone who wants to address this item in the room? I don't see anybody online. Seeing none. So we're just receiving this item. And you've asked a lot of good questions, and we've had some good answers, so we're going to move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is 11B, the Capital Improvement Program update.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Dale Lita, interim city engineer. Tonight we're going to be presenting an update on the capital improvement program. We're just hoping to get some feedback from council on potential projects to add to the CIP this coming fiscal year. First, really quick, what is a CIP, or capital improvement program? So this is effectively a planning tool that the city uses to identify capital projects or plans that Public Works wants to implement to improve the community. It helps with scheduling, staffing efforts, and also how we're going to fund projects, and it helps us to prioritize our projects. Currently, we're looking at about $90 million in value within our CIP. That includes 26 returning projects from last year and 7 new projects that are included in staff report and are listed here, as well as 2 revisions to existing projects. Really quickly, just some of the 4 projects we completed over this year or expect to be complete this year. Carter Park, the last piece that is finished up at this point is the lighting at the stairs. So that work's been completed and signed off, and we're expecting to bring a notice of completion to council in the very near future. We also completed our solar and HVAC projects at City Hall and the Sheriff's Substation. Our 25-26 pavement management project in Arleta Park, and our climate adaptation plan. I've listed the projects here, and there's a description in the staff report. If there's any specific ones that council would like to go over, I'm happy to discuss. The new projects are based on priority setting from council back in March, as well as kind of previous efforts from staff and our judgment on future projects we need to be focused on. So first, a couple of formatting changes I want to mention with the CIP. This year, we're looking at revising from, in past years, we've had both a 1-year and 5-year CIP project list, which is it's been a little bit confusing, and if you compare the two, they're almost identical lists. We're trying to simplify things, so with this year's CIP, we're shrinking it down to a 3-year, just a single project list. We think this makes more sense. It's simpler, it's more transparent, and it's just more realistic for focusing our efforts in the very near term. We're also adjusting how we're listing projects and organizing. In the past, our project list has been organized based on funding, which doesn't work very well in Half Moon Bay because the bulk of our CIP is funded through grants, which are usually one-time lump sum funds. Over 80% of our capital improvement program is funded through grants. And so revising our project list to be expense-based effectively ties our CIP to the staff effort that's needed. If we're spending money, that means we're spending staff time. Based on our array of projects that we're working on, we estimate that a single full-time engineer within Public Works could manage effectively around $10 million in projects in a fiscal year. You will note in the project list, we currently have it structured so that we're targeting around $20 million in capital projects year to year. Currently, we have, I would say, roughly the equivalent of 1 full-time staff working on capital improvement projects. So as the list is portrayed currently, it's optimistic with the assumption that we would be able to get some more support staff this year. Given where we're at with limited staffing and funding, and there's been past discussion about how we prioritize projects. With this year's CIP, we wanted to flesh that out a little bit more. And we really are prioritizing projects that are first and foremost public safety projects that are fully funded and effectively ready for construction. This year, we have a tentative list of kind of our funding requests from our different city funds. This year, our general fund request is $620,000 compared to last year's, I think was around $1 million, and the year before was $2 million. So within our CIP, we're being sensitive to budget issues here in town and trying to be very conscientious about which projects we're allocating funding towards. I have a list of all of our projects as proposed, and I'm happy to take any questions on project status, any of the new projects, whatever council would like to discuss.
Really well done staff report. I really like the new formatting. I think it all makes a lot of sense. And thank you for the brief presentation. Who would like to begin with questions, clarifying questions or comments? Councilmember Nagengast.
I like the 3 years. Makes more sense. I've done 1 to 5 years forever. 5 years never happened half the time. So I like the approach to the 3 years. I think that's a more realistic, practical approach. Just a couple of things I want to add if we just approved 555 Kelly. So now I'm going to tell you every chance I get, I need Highway 1 and Kelly safety improvements done out there. And I noticed on the project, Highway 1 Kelly is $7 million to remove pork chops or those raised medians. To me, the $7 million is whatever the ultimate grand scheme is supposed to be there, but it won't cost $7 million to remove the raised medians. In my opinion, maybe prices have gone up since I did the ones on the west side, but if any chance we get to do it, fascinating to me, they removed them but put them back a little bigger and sharper now. So maybe we can fit more kids on there to press a button. The reason why they're there is so they press a button to walk the street. They can't put the button on the other side because then they'd have to put another pedestrian head. They went through all this, but I wish, I wish they would have done something. But now I'm going to be back on this. I had brought this up previously to do improvements there. And now sitting on the council, I'm going to push us to try and do the improvements there along with a sidewalk from Kelly to 92 on the west side. Just there. And now that we've also done, CLT's done their project and promoting parking there, I really believe we need to improve the intersection of Redondo Beach Road and Highway 1 sooner than later because we've opened it up for parking. And I just not comfortable having left turn movements without protected pockets there. But so I'm going to be on your council, be pushing those. And also I just quickly too, I noticed the Wave Crest water main project. We're asking for 500,000, 400 in one spot, 100 there, and this is to get water there so somebody else will help, or hopefully there's some grant monies maybe to help us do some more improvements there. So that's been the whole push, because I want to make sure who's ever, we talk about grants a lot, but the two data points I have is Carter Park and Poplar, and we've been way off on our construction estimates on those. And not only for the full project, but we've had to only do portion of Poplar and had to come back and ask for more monies from general fund or some other monies for that. So hopefully we've improved our ability to come up with construction estimates to be more realistic, for a project. So I think, we've talked about this before, but I just want, us to, as a community, to understand that if we do rely on grants, we have to make sure that we're telling ourselves what that cost is, so we're not dipping in. We've had to go after some other monies to finish Carter and Poplar, which then takes away from other projects. Because I know also Magnolia Park is something that I'd like to see. And I see it's on there, but, that's another one I will be, pushing there. But I like the 3-year is a more realistic approach, for the council, for us to, have projects completed. So those are my comments.
Just regarding the various, so Kelly Avenue at Highway 1, Redondo Beach Road, as well as the, pedestrian access along the highway. All three of those components are being looked at as part of our Highway 1 access and mobility study, which we're currently working on. We had our community engagement in a couple of weeks ago to get initial public input. We're going to have another follow-up engagement with, and there's been a robust existing conditions analysis for the entire corridor between 92 and Miramontes Point Road. So our next engagement is going to be in July. We'll start presenting conceptual kind of improvements looking at each of those intersections. I actually just got some today from our consultant team. And so that'll set us up really well to move forward. Once that access and mobility study is complete, that will help. That'll be a very strong asset for us moving forward and being competitive on future grants.
We do components of something. You don't have to me, wait, because it's still 20 years later and we haven't finished that intersection. So I'd rather we do pieces of it at least, but thanks. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Brownstone.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on Councilmember Nagin-Guest's concerns about the pork chops and Caltrans. So a couple of times we have put it on to have an agenda meeting with have Caltrans come back. So I think if we can expedite, when I say expedite, something in the next couple of months, get Caltrans back here. It's been a while that we've had a chance to really talk to them with the public here, and full council, and really try and understand what the heck is going on when it's such an important public safety issue for us. And it's been a source of frustration because we thought it was done at one point, and then 2 weeks before, remember that whole cancellation. So unless we're if we're a squeaky wheel, I think we might just have a better chance at getting some feedback from them, so.
I'd be happy to help set that up.
I just want to pile on to the Kellyan one a little bit. So there's a couple of good justifications for revisiting this. I mean, besides, just general public safety, it's safe routes to school, and it's also a coastal access, right? So there's a state interest here on those items as well. So we want to hammer them on that. We want to get, the safe routes to school people involved in lobbying. But I think there's a good reason to revisit. So, yes, for earliest opportunity to get them back. And Councilmember Johnson, do you?
Well, I agree with what we're talking about. First of all, the pork chops. I don't want to beat that pork chop up anymore. I can't believe that we actually just went out and they went and fixed it and repaved it. And I'm like, what the hell? We're trying to finish this and do it right, and they went and redid it. On a different topic, on the Main Street banner program parking study and the wayfinding elements, I keep bringing this up that, I know this is little piddly crap, this one thing that I want to do, the historic sign over by Cameron's and the one over by Menidas's property that we don't know who owns it. It's fallen apart. Caltrans actually hit it and broke it. It fell down. This goes back years. There's some history on that. I would like to get that on the agenda so that we can either include that with the wayfinding, because it's signage. I'm not sure if we can straighten the poles up, make our town look good again, and get that sign, those two signs done. I don't know if that is in the scope, but that was what I thought was, but I don't think it is. So I'd like to try to get that in there.
So currently the downtown streetscape implementation CIP project includes, and that was originally looking at wayfinding, and if you recall, as we started, it was looking at an archway over Main Street at Highway 92. Last year, when we decided to stop moving forward with the archway project, we held, I think it was around $51,000 or $52,000 in reserve from that to move forward with potential wayfinding projects. And at that time, it was supposed to be a collaboration with, I think, downtown businesses. We started focusing on the banner program more recently, and then we heard a request for a traffic study down Main Street. And so all these projects come back from the downtown streetscape master plan, and so those are all effectively included within that CIP project. So that there is a funding request to bolster those funds specifically for whether it's wayfinding or a kiosk downtown, as well as implementing the banner program. And those can also be pulled out as separate CIP projects if that's preferred. But currently, as they're in here, they're bundled all together because they're kind of coming from the same source material.
And I'll just confirm, when we think of wayfinding, we're including those two signs that you just described, as well as the sign on the Keaton-Earhan property.
Which I met with them in a little bit. I couldn't do the last meeting. And we do have some ideas, and that's the one we got the Measure K funding for. Correct. 25,000. And so we've got some ideas for that, but we also know that Keaton-Earhan's moving forward with the Hilltop and the 25 units. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking with Keat about that, so we need to kind of plan together because he has to do a sound wall. And so right there where that sign is right where the sound wall is going to be. So he's moving forward on his project, and we want to try to make sure that we move forward together.
Yeah, I think there is a plan for a new sign location within the site plan for his project. It's a little bit further east of where the existing sign is.
So I just have one addition. I think it makes sense. We had Chad Hooker here a month or two ago, talking about the parklet next to City Hall, and that there's a lot of in-kind contribution available and potential, fundraisers to help pay for it. It would be somewhat insignificant city role, as far as I understand it. I might be wrong about that, mainly around, permitting, I guess. That would involve, I guess, closing off access to Main Street from City Hall and designing a little parklet, perhaps moving the bell to the library or at another location. But I think since there's so much community interest, just like there was on the garden project at the library by the Asia Foundation, I'd like to help facilitate those kinds of projects where there's a lot of community interest and skin in the game. So I'd like us to look more deeply at that. It has a lot of fans, a lot of people with means want to help, so I'd like to make sure that we get that, on the plan, at least to consider when we're doing our budget.
Mayor, can I add?
Yeah.
So I had a meeting with Fernando, who's part of the IDS Hall, and he is doing the sister city for the Portuguese. I forgot the name where he's talking about it, but it's a surf city in Portugal, just like Half Moon Bay. He looked at the parklet, we walked it, and I actually walked it with Matthew also. He wants to do some kind of layout where the Portuguese tiling, where that area is right by Nano's is, some kind of structure. It's in the ground. He even indicated, and this is what he does for a living. He does big construction like this. And he looked at the way that our drainage was. He goes, I could work with that. I could do this. So he knows what he's doing. He really wants to put some money and time into that area. So we would need to definitely want to make sure when we move forward on that to incorporate this. So that's another sister city thing that we could do.
Okay.
I don't have any speaker slips on this, and it doesn't look like there's much in the way of public here in any case. Is there anyone online who would like to address the capital improvements plan? Seeing no hands raised. Sure.
Thank you. And I meant to bring this up earlier. I noticed there's a proposal to work at the courtyard of Phase 2, about $200,000. Is that just a continuation of a master plan we had, or is this something else that's showing up?
Yeah, so there was a master plan for the yard, which included, I guess, the fencing and the new road and the current existing enclosure in the middle area. There was a Phase 2 component of that plan, which was entitled. It was included in our coastal development permit for a structure. 7,000? I think it was around 7,000 square foot, 9,000 square foot structure for storage of equipment and materials. As that plan was originally laid out, I was located on the west side of kind of the yard, closer to the creek, I should say. That plan's also a little bit outdated. I think the use of the yards changed a little bit. These funds would be kind of an initial allocation for planning implementation of a future project. Whether it's whether it's a storage structure at that location or somewhere else on the site that would require an amendment. We're not proposing to do any work for this fiscal year. This is just starting to accrue funds to move forward with the project.
Right. Would that include possibility of putting those solar arrays on a building instead? Because I see the ground mounts and they take up kind of a nice area of the yard. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what the plan would be, but maybe reconsider something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I think we talked one time, there's work proposed at City Hall, some improvements.
So the City Hall piece was we've been exploring, could we reconfigure City Hall now that we've consolidated all of our non-recreation and non-public works yard staff into City Hall to improve seating, spacing, security, all those things. There's no item in this CIP.
It's not funded,
to actually move forward with it. So if we think it's something we want to bring back, we'll bring that back separately.
All right, thank you.
I just want to point out, I really like the idea of the CAP, the neighborhood improvement plans. I think that's a really sweet idea. I like that. I want to address the library doors. It seems to me that that's an opportunity for a sponsorship to actually, pick up the cost of the door, and maybe we acknowledge the contribution in the vicinity of the door. I can't imagine there isn't somebody with the means who would love to have their name on the door of that beautiful library. And it seems to me we ought to, look at that as an opportunity first. Maybe it's Rotary again, I don't know, but somebody who loves libraries and, the metaphor of the door opening and your mind opening and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we still have, an approved donor policy in place. And the library, the Friends of the Half Bay Library remain a very solid partner and active. So we can do some work with them and the library staff and see if we can't get the word out and see if there's that opportunity. Yeah.
A call for sponsors for the library door, a new library door. And then go that route first and then see what turns up.
Sounds good.
Use our social media?
Absolutely.
And just, I want to ask again, the biggest project the city's ever going to do to date, now that can change, and especially now the cost of probably asphalt, but are we still on track to do the highway, I call it the old school guy terror signal, but the Highway 1 North Safety and Operations Project?
So the Highway 1 North Safety and Operations Project, we were awarded a $11.5 million grant last year from the TA to help bolster our funding shortage. $1.5 million from that grant is actually coming from the TA's California Transportation Commission programming, and there's been some snags in getting those funds obligated, and so we're working through that now with the TA and with CTC. Currently, it's looking like we're not going to be able to unless we want to forfeit those funds, we wouldn't be able to advertise likely until December at the earliest of this year. And this is given CTC's schedule and some of the steps that are required in order to secure those funds. That being said, we're still working through final design comments from Caltrans. We're actually expecting to resubmit plans this week, responding to the last round of 100% comments from their team. So we're still working through and addressing comments, but.
Okay, I'm going to call it now. We're going to move on. Thank you very much. I love this job. Okay, so we're moving on to item 11C, Sewer Authority and Midcoast Side Revised Fiscal Year Operations Budget. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation, Dale and Todd.
I don't know how to do that. Nobody's ever trained me on this.
Just X back.
Yeah, just do it like that. It's easy.
X back.
Okay. Next item tonight is presenting the Sewer Authority Midcoast 26-27 operations and maintenance budget. Tonight we're looking for a resolution approving Sam's budget. Little quick background. Sam provides sewer service to City of Half Moon Bay, Granada Community Services District, and Montera Sanitation District. And this is specifically talking about what it costs to treat flows at the plant. Based on our JPA, the cost sharing between the three agencies is based on flows from the prior year. So for fiscal year 26-27, Half Moon Bay's flows from last year will be used for our share. So currently, our share from last year, we're at 61% of the total cost of treatment at the plant. How do we measure flows? The best way to measure flows is through pump stations with controlled metering. Montera and El Granada both have a series of pump stations that they use to measure flows and subtract kind of upstream flows from. And Half Moon Bay, we have our own flow metering, but because most of our system is gravity to the plant, we're kind of the last ones into the plant, and so we're effectively left with the remaining flows once El Granada and Montera have kind of gauged what their flows are. Now, during dry weather conditions, this works fine. It's very accurate. During wet weather conditions, there's been some debate over how flows commingle kind of at the intake to the plant and whether the meters are still accurate at that point in time. That's something we've been looking at, trying to study and better vet out. Just a quick kind of summary of existing or prior year flows. So over the last 5 years, Half Moon Bay's contribution has hovered between 59% and 61%. So where we're at for last year's flows is very consistent with prior years. This year's operation and maintenance budget is $11.5 million, and that's a $1.5 million increase from last year. That's the total SAM operating and maintenance budget, of which Half Moon Bay's contribution would be about $7 million. That's a $1 million increase from last year. The $1.5 million increase for SAM's overall budget, there's three primary components to this. Around $264,000 is going to pensions, wages, and employee benefits. There's $400,000, which is allocated towards anticipated repairs at the plant. This is a new item within their budget that hasn't been previously included, but they've looked at the last several years, and they're generally spending between $400,000 and $450,000 a year on unexpected repairs if a pump fails and they need to quickly repair it. So they're being proactive this year and incorporating this into their budget up front. The biggest chunk of the increase is coming from their capital projects. That's $605,000. And the elephant in the room really from SAM's capital program is the Montera Force Main Replacement Project. This is a 2.5 mile pipeline force main replacement between Moss Beach and El Granada. They're replacing an existing 12-inch ductile iron pipe with HDPE pipe. The real kind of worry or concern with this project is the ultimate cost for construction, which currently there was a $3 million allocation last year towards SAM's funding this project. And this year's allocation is $4.25 million. There's going to be another allocation next year, but this is all based on a 2023 construction cost estimate at $10 million. So, given where other costs have gone since 2023, we're anticipating at this point that the final cost estimate is going to be, notably higher than $10 million. And we won't be getting a final cost estimate from the contractor until the last I've heard was the end of June. So it would be after budget approval. We're not helpless on our end. City staff, we're still trying to do what we can to help improve and reduce costs. We know this is going to be a significant impact. We're planning for a future rate study, which we haven't started yet, but we're going to be starting very soon. In addition, which is going to be needed. And in addition to that, we're continuing an ongoing effort with studying our infiltration and inflow. This is looking at where stormwater leaks into our system and ends up as treated water. We estimate about 10% of the total treated flow at the plant is I&I flow. And so anything we could do to help, whether it's replacing leaky pipes or sealing manholes, these things all add up to help lower that I&I flow and reduce costs of ratepayers. And that's it.
Council members, any clarifying questions or motions?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving the Sewer Authority Midcoast General Operations and Maintenance Budget for FY 2026 through 27.
Is there a second? Okay, let's see if there's public comment here. I have no speaker slips. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the item of the Sewer Authority operating budget? Seeing none, is there anyone online who would like to address the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast operating budget? Seeing none, I will bring it back and ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item 11D, Half Moon Bay Sewer Collection Services Budget and System Maintenance Agreement with Sewer Authority Mid-Coast.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a separate agreement between the City of Half Moon Bay and Sewer Authority Midcoast. This is for maintenance, or this is for cleaning of the city's infrastructure, our pipe system that we own and maintain throughout Half Moon Bay. So tonight we're asking for a resolution to approve the budget for next year of $960,000, of which city share is $331,000, and also to amend our cleaning contract with SAM. We have City of Half Moon Bay has about 35 miles of sewer main and forced main. Compared to our other districts, I think El Granada has about 35 also. And Montera has, I think, around 24. We also have 3 lift stations. I think Montera has maybe 13 lift stations. So a little bit difference in sewer districts. This contract includes cleaning our mains. So every year we look to clean at least 50% of our mains. Usually it ends up a little bit higher. We have several areas that warrant more frequent cleaning. And then the SAM crew also responds to sewer overflows. They're on a 24/7 kind of notice, and they've been very good about responding in the past. And then also inspection and maintenance of our pump stations. This year's increase is roughly 40% from last year. So from last year's $233,000. And that increase and the total cost of collections is, I think around 90% of it is really staff costs. So it's almost entirely pension, wages, and benefits for staff. Compared to prior years, Half Moon Bay's percentage has gone up a little bit, and you'll notice El Granada's has as well. Relative to Montera, that's because Montera, with this next fiscal year, they've opted to remove several pump stations from their cleaning schedule. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Nagengast.
One question. The rate study. So we're doing it this year?
Yes. I'll jump in on this. Yeah, we're working with one of our consultants to get the ball rolling. We really want to have it resolved before the end of this coming fiscal year.
Right.
You know, as we know, now that the lawsuit is behind us and we know that we're on the hook for the costs related to the Montera Sewer Main project, we need to take a look and make sure our rates are appropriate going forward and they can cover the costs of all those things, because it is the ratepayers that pay for this work.
Right. So I saw $1 million, the previous item, and then 40% or 30 or 40% increase on this one. Yeah. We have sufficient funds to get us through this year, correct?
This year, and really that's it. If we get into the following fiscal year,
right, so that's why we're doing the rate study.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Brownstone? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I move that we adopt a resolution approving the FY 2026-27 Sewer Authority Midcoast Side Contract Collection Services budget of $912,935 and the total participating agency revenue requirement of $960,622, included as Exhibit A to this resolution, of which the city's share of $331,415, and 2, authorizing the city manager to execute Amendment Number 9 to the Sewer Collection System Maintenance Professional Services Agreement with SAM, establishing the FY 2026-27 annual cost for the city's share at $331,415 and extending the agreement for one additional year through June 30th, 2027.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
I don't have any speaker slips on this item. I don't see anybody eager to address it. Is there anyone online who would like to talk about the collections budget? Seeing no hands raised. Unless there's any further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Second, can we second it?
He seconded.
Oh, he did, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagangas?
Yes.
Mayor Reddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for good presentations on those items. Okay, so now we're moving on to item 11E, which is purchase of a new CAT 249D3 compact track loader.
It is definitely Public Works Night at City Council tonight.
In honor of Public Works Week, I am back again to spend a little more time with you this evening. You're good. That's the one, right?
When Todd disappeared, I half thought he was going to roll in on this tractor.
We tried to coordinate it. It didn't work out. My apologies. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am, again, Todd Seeley. That hasn't changed. I'm here to speak with you this evening about the purchase of a 2026 Caterpillar 249D3 compact track loader. Why is this equipment needed? The city currently does not own a compact track loader, which is a valuable and nimble piece of construction equipment. The addition of Carter Park to the city's maintenance responsibilities has left the city without any equipment able to access the bottom of the park. With some redesigning after construction had already began, we had to kind of shift some of the grades and the ramp configuration around, and simply put, we just don't have any vehicles. Even the pool vehicle won't fit down there. So we do not have any vehicles that can fit down there currently. Contractors obviously do, but we'd like to avoid that if at all possible. The purchase was considered during the FY26 budget cycle, but was omitted due to fiscal constraints. Currently, funding is available due to careful fund management in the Emergency Preparedness Fund, and also an unfilled position in that same fund. Some of the benefits of this piece of equipment. The purchase would give the city a versatile tool that can be used in many different applications. High-flow hydraulics allow for multiple separate attachments. I'm kind of going to go through those later, but I'll show you some pictures of them. Augers, sweepers, braking hammer, brush clear, all stuff that we could use for different jobs throughout the city. So sidewalk replacement, if we wanted to replace a couple flags of concrete, this one piece of equipment could essentially come in, break it up, scoop it up in the bucket, get it all out of there, and then we just form the concrete and pour it back up. We could be out of there in a couple days. It's a very useful piece of equipment, and it's quite small, compact, and it's easily maneuverable for our maintenance folks to use. Sourcewell pricing is how we're proposing to purchase this. This is a government, it's not a government agency, it's a cooperative that kind of just works with various government agencies just to ensure the best pricing is available to government agencies. It's an industry standard kind of thing. When we started this discussion with Caterpillar, this is kind of the option that they mentioned would be the lowest and best price that we could even get from them, so it was kind of a no-brainer looking at that. As I mentioned earlier, when we did put in the ramp at Carter Park, the pictures don't really do it justice about how sharp that turn is. If you're looking at the second picture, the picture on the right, there's a big concrete retaining wall back over there that kind of prevents any vehicle from turning. This compact track loader could come in there, make that turn, no problem. Probably wouldn't even have to raise the bucket up. We can probably do it just in the normal configuration. If not, all we would have to do is just raise the bucket up to clear the railing part in the center, and then we'd be good to go. As I mentioned earlier, the Carter Park was originally designed to allow for vehicular access. ADA requirements kind of force design changes in the middle of the project, so unfortunately, currently, we don't have that access down there. The potential for flooding at the park is real and exists, and we don't have a single piece of equipment that can get down there. I mean, just looking at even some minor flooding with just a little bit of debris, we would be able to take care of this completely with just this one piece of equipment. We wouldn't have to contract anything out. We wouldn't have to pay exorbitant emergency response fees from the contractors, because they do charge more when there's an emergency. We've seen it time and time again. So just this one little piece of equipment would be able to help us deal with all of any unforeseen emergencies down there in a reasonable manner. This is kind of, this is actually the picture on the right working in front of the house. That's the exact model that we're looking at. It's an enclosed cab, so it's safe for the operators. We will go look at the brush clear. We have had issues before with open cabs, and when we're clearing brush, wasps have stung operators before. So we kind of gravitated towards the enclosed cab approach when we're looking at new equipment, just for the safety of our staff. For a small nominal cost, we feel that it's a no-brainer. And some of the attachments that are available, we got an auger, we got a sweeping attachment, which is great for doing little sweeping jobs, keeping the yard clean if we had to, sweep up after a job site, just thinking outside the lines or outside the box. If a contractor left something unsatisfactory, instead of getting them out there, we could just go up there and sweep it up ourselves and charge them back. And the last attachment, the little picture that you shown, that's a brush clear. So typically we do our mowing with our big John Deere tractor, but we could get into smaller spaces with this. It's kind of just like a pancake flail mower, for lack of a better term, and it just allows us to clear brush in different areas. And especially since the footprint of this, the skid steer, the compact track loader, is much smaller, we can get into tighter spaces and do more work in spaces like that if we had to. And with that, I am more than willing to take any questions from the council.
Can you,
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes, thank you. I'm also thinking in terms of emergency situations, flooding, debris, fire stuff. Give you some more examples, because you don't want to wait till the emergency and then we have to go out and try and rent some equipment to get out of situations. But in what other applications can this be used?
Sure. Just in the last really 2 emergency situations that we've had to contract out work for, there was a row of trees that came down before Stone Pine Cove was built, and the 2 pieces of equipment that were brought out were a skid steer and a mini excavator, just to clear the debris out of there once it had been cut up. So I know that there was a tree down in front of, near the mayor's house this last winter, something like that. That's a piece of equipment we would bring out there. If we can't get it cleared, it can help us push the debris to the side, get our roadways open, make it passable for fire, make it passable for police, stuff like that. And then Oak Park, when Oak Park flooded, for sure this piece of equipment would have been great. When all the silt was kind of on the park area, it was, our backhoe that we had parked out front is way too heavy. We would never be able to get it in there. It would just sink in all that silt. This thing is tracked and it's light enough that we can get it into smaller spaces, or spaces that are more delicate like that, clear the debris, get it out of there, get it in a dump truck, and then get it hauled off. Those are the last 2 instances that are coming to my mind where we've had to contract out, and both times a skid steer was used for the emergency response for those.
Does it come with attachments, kind of like a vacuum cleaner, like a shovel, or maybe some things like a grill, or just things you can attach to it to do different things?
Unfortunately, it comes with a bucket. So it comes with a loader bucket. That's the primary attachment that it comes with. We're all aware of the fiscal constraints that we're dealing with, and we could have spec'd out the sun, the moon, and the stars on this, but we wanted to make it as reasonable and as palatable as possible, just because, a decent attachment for that thing is probably starting at $10,000.
We can
I would at least get
We
one.
can add stuff later,
Yeah.
yes. So this piece of equipment is spec'd out with high flow hydraulics. So this will power anything that Caterpillar makes, plus a lot of aftermarket companies make attachments for stuff like this too.
Right.
So the hydraulic system is already there. We can push the hydraulics to get the thing spinning when budget stabilizes a little bit and we have more. And we've identified a clear use for attachments, because we don't want to just go spending money willy-nilly on attachments and not have a clear identified use.
But as long as it will accommodate attachments in the future.
That
that is one of the benefits of a skid steer. We call them skid steers, compact track loader, is the interchangeability of the attachments. A backhoe is a backhoe is a backhoe. It's a hoe on the back and a bucket on the front. There are a little bit of wiggle room there, but a skid steer really shines when you're doing jobs with multiple attachments on it. So like example, like I mentioned, if we had to change out, say 10 flags of concrete, you get your trailer, load up your skid steer, you have a breaker, you have your bucket on there, and then you go in there, you break it out, change out that attachment to the bucket and get all the spoils out of there, and then you're ready to start forming up, and then you can pour soon after that. So just that one piece of equipment has the maneuverability to do all that.
It's a multi-tool.
It definitely is.
I like that, yeah.
So you went through Sourcewell, which is good because they provide better prices to government agencies.
Better prices,
because they focus on that, which we had something else, but the same type of deal. Did you look at used equipment versus a new one and just explain that a little bit?
I did not look at used equipment. I mean, used equipment is a viable thing. This piece of equipment, because of the hydraulics alone, is why we did not look at going used. Hydraulics and hydraulic issues can be hidden well. Basically, it's a big pump that pushes hydraulic fluid through two hoses, one, return, and it would be very easy to hide that for a short period of time for an unscrupulous person trying to sell that to us, and then would be stuck with a $30,000 repair on a piece of used equipment right off the bat. Generally speaking, we would prefer to buy new equipment if at all possible. Vehicles are a little bit different. There is a little bit of wiggle room, but equipment especially, we prefer to buy new equipment just because we know we're the first ones to touch it. If we break it, we know it was one of those upstanding gentlemen that was here earlier this evening. We'll have that discussion with them after the fact. But we just don't want to get stuck with a lemon, especially on something like this where just tearing into it is going to be $5,000 just for a mechanic to look at it. And that's kind of the approach with that. Thank you for the question.
Councilmember Johnson, do you have any comments or clarifying questions?
I looked at one for used, the exact same model, and I can't remember the price. So $37,000. It was 1 year old. So I thought it was kind of like, why can't we go there? The other council members can weigh in on that. I'm concerned about all our fancy equipment that's sitting out at our corporate yard that's sitting exposed and rusting. And then the viewpoint is, well, we don't want to buy a used one because it's already rusty. We're going to buy a new one that's going to rust. So that's an issue that I have, the fact. And who's trained to actually operate all these? Does somebody be trained to operate this compact track loader? Is anybody in our team able to, not putting any, putting the point on anybody?
All fair questions. The idea would be when we built the barn, the idea was obviously to store the backhoe inside the barn. When we put the backhoe inside the barn, it's just a very tight fit. It's not realistic. We would look at storing this new piece of equipment inside the barn just because it's covered, it's sheltered, and it's out of the elements. I think that to a member of the crew, they are all interested in getting a piece of equipment like this, and they would take good care of it. The history has shown that when they get nice equipment, they take good care of it. So I think that the thought process would be to store it inside the barn and go that way. As for the used model, I don't know. I didn't look at exactly the one you were looking at. I don't know what you have to pay extra for an enclosed cab. You have to pay extra for air conditioning. I don't know what specifications it had on it, and I also don't know how many hours are on it.
Well, that was the other question, because when you have an enclosed cab, that usually means you have AC, so it's got full luxuries.
Yes.
And I just look at that as more money, and it's more maintenance for the AC alone. And then the cab, of course, like you said, for Beehive or whatever, that does happen, but I've seen them exposed where they're open too, and you just have to be careful.
Sure.
The other one I was thinking about was, the main thing is just the storage, that we're not storing these very expensive equipments and we're just sitting outside. I mean, my truck's an 18, it's already rusting. Mm-hmm. And the equipment that we have out there, it's a lot of money. It's like 80 grand. And how much was the tractor and all the stuff that we got?
The tractor was around 80,000 and the backhoe was about double that.
And that's like $300,000 sitting exposed. And at some point, we need to have something that stores all this stuff. And with the solar panels where they are, no structure, we don't have a place to store our toys that are working, that falling apart because they're exposed. And how often you use stuff, it just sits, right? The other problem I'm looking at is, have we tried using the 249D3 to do that bend? That was my first thing I was thinking about. Has anybody actually done the bend with that tractor?
Not particularly, no.
So it hasn't been proven?
It has not been proven.
I would like to see it proven first before we dive 80 grand into something that we don't even know that can be done yet. I'd say we need to rent it, they need to try it, see if it works, before we dump 80 grand. Or tip over. I think it's a tight turn. I remember the first day I went to that park and I wheeled my daughter with the wheelchair and I went, why is it so tight? And Maz was telling me what happened and you guys know what happened. And then we don't, and then the other thing is, this is a great tool for, like, when we did my driveway, I hired a guy, we chopped it out, put the bit down, broke all the cement, pulled it out, loaded it up. It does work. It's a great tool for like driveway guys. But you're gonna go all the way down from the top of Carter Park on that little road and go all the way down to pick up a little scoop of mud and go all the way back up. That's a 5-day job right there for a little scoop. It's a lot of work, but that's what we have. We have a problem. Mm-hmm. What's the solution? This is the solution. It's an expensive mistake. This is add this to Carter Park's expensive mistake. Add it. That's another 100,000. And we don't even have a place to store it. That's another. Well, you're saying the barn.
Well, the barn is definitely an option, and we discussed earlier in the CIP discussion some funding for potentially moving forward with phase 2 of the project. There is a building that's already designed and entitled and approved. I mean, just to give you guys a little bit of idea of what that would cost in today's market, just that building, which honestly probably isn't the ideal setup for out there, that's about $3 million. That's a non-stick built building. If we were to build a stick built building, $5 million, right? To get a stick built building of the same size, delineated out on the inside with office space and compartments for paint and, you know, for fuel storage. That's the reason we don't have storage. It's an expensive proposition.
You do have storage containers out there. I've seen them building condos out of these storage containers. If you were to stack those storage containers and put a roof on top of the storage containers, you can actually put this compact track loader in there. You could put your loader, your mower, all those things could be, if you roofed all of them, you could just back each one, you'd have temporary storage until this $10 million project comes about.
Yeah, agreed. And a single-use shipping container, I think the last time we checked was about $5,000 with no modifications. And
you already have them on the premise. They're on the yard. There's 10 of them already there. You just you stacked them all together. You could spread them apart, and then you have enough for the tractor to fit in. You have enough for the lawnmower. If you took all the containers, you put them together.
I don't think I quite understand. Are you proposing putting them inside the double doors of the containers, or like building a roof over them?
What I'm saying is, you take the container and you put them. You space them apart, and then you just put a roof on the top. At least now you have the elements not coming down. If you wanted to build a door from there, you could at least put them inside and put a door on the back of in there between the two voids and have a door, and then you can pull the unit out. So you're using the containers as your walls.
Couldn't we have like a barn raising or something like that? An old-fashioned barn raising.
I like the containers, though.
Yeah.
What would it take to see if we have that equipment can, I thought we didn't have anything that could make that turn. I didn't know we don't know.
I know that when Shakespeare in the Park occupied it last year, they tried to take it down with like a Ford Ranger and they were not able to make it.
No, I'm talking about
I mean, we could do some simple measurements tomorrow. Based on the specs they gave me, it's about 100 inches from the back of the tractor to the front of the track. So that's not accounting for the bucket. We could raise the bucket up, obviously, if we had to. So it's about 100 inches. Just looking at it, I don't think that would be an issue making that turn right there because of the considerable amount of space you have as you get closer towards Mariners. We can definitely try it out for sure, and kind of mock up 100 inches and just see what the turning radius would look like, for sure.
What I'm looking at is somebody that's not familiar with this machine. I think Kevin would pull it off because he's been doing all this all his life. But you get somebody in there, the first thing I'm seeing is that wall's going to get hit coming around the corner. We don't know, and I could be talking out of my butt right now, but I like to test things before I go buying stuff. And that to me would be if we could rent one or get one and do that turn and see how much time it takes. But what do we got? This is the only option we have. But I'd like to make sure that we can make that turn.
So can that be tested out? Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, can the dealer bring it over, whoever? And
I mean, I can certainly have those discussions with the dealer. They've been working with us. Obviously, this item was supposed to go some time ago. 555 happened, and obviously stuff happened. The actual piece of equipment has been sitting on their lot for almost a month now. I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to hold it. I can definitely have those discussions with them tomorrow, though. It's not a big deal. I have his number, and I'll call him first thing in the morning. But then that pushes us back till the next council meeting.
Well, I think there's a couple things. If the council is comfortable with this pending that piece, I mean, it can be a conditional approval. And then, the other thing is maybe we can talk to some of the contractors in town and see if somebody has a similar piece of equipment that would be willing to work with us to at least test that out.
I know Half Moon Bay Grading has the next size up, which I think if the next size up can make it, then this one would definitely make it. We could probably arrange that tomorrow.
I mean, I would feel better that also assurances this thing would be stored in the barn.
Sure.
If nothing else goes in there, put this in there.
Okay.
And then we'll figure out some other storage, I think, that you need to be putting equipment.
Not my need. It's just I know what the weather does to equipment, and I just think it's a shame. And I think we need to be planning ahead down the road. That at least take this shed idea that I'm throwing at you, put a roof on top, put a door on the front and the back, and at least you're protecting this. And you got the lawnmower in the. You should have never taken me there for the tour. I'll tell you that was a mistake. So you got the lawnmower that's in the barn right now, and Kevin does a lot of the repairs in that barn. So you're going to be moving stuff in and out. The last time I was in there, they were doing service work on the lawnmower. That was in there. Now you're kind of just moving one piece of machinery out and putting one in. You follow me? There's only so much room in there. There wasn't a lot of room in that barn.
There is not. This piece of equipment that we're talking about now is significantly more expensive than the 5,000D lawnmower, though. I guess it would be a prioritization of what we're trying to preserve until we can get everything covered, which even if we were to build a 9,000 square foot building, we probably still would run out of room and we're not even talking about the service trucks, because there's an entire fleet of those that we have as well that, I mean, where are we going it definitely has to be a prioritization thing, like what pieces of equipment, and obviously the most expensive pieces of equipment and the most essential, mission essential pieces of equipment are the ones that need to get stored indoors.
I think I don't want to spend too much night beating this up, and I know the mayor wants to get moving. If we could see a video of that whole thing, I'd love to see it. Like just watching you guys run this guy through that turn, and it goes smoothly, and then we move forward. You guys need it, and we need something, but it's not like a rush because it's not going to flood right now. It's summertime, am I correct? We're thinking when the flood park floods.
But we also are heading toward a super El Nino winter, which means,
ever.
Yeah, historical. And that could be very heavy rains, catastrophic.
No,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
Those are my concerns.
Thank you for that.
I would be interested in conditionally moving forward with this based on making sure we can make that turn.
Make a motion.
So I guess conditionally approve to adopt a resolution authorize the city manager to conditionally approve a purchase agreement. Just how do I stick conditionally in?
Yeah, so you would make the motion as stated in the agenda, but add at the end that approval is conditioned upon staff fulfilling the direction of the council, which is to test the equipment to ensure that it can fit down the ramp of Carter Park.
Okay. So I recommend adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement in the amount of $80,513.63 with Peterson Cat for purchase of a Cat 249D3 compact track loader, conditioned upon the ability to make that turn, providing evidence that that turn can be made with that piece of equipment.
Is there a second?
Second.
And to store this indoors, to make sure this is stored, because this now becomes our valuable piece, and then we'll have to have this one stored.
I just want to check and see if there's any...
Councilmember Brownstone, are you amenable to that amendment to the motion?
Yeah, that's great. Second. Okay.
Yeah. Is there any public comment on the item of buying this piece of equipment? I see nobody in the room. I see no hands raised online. So any further discussion? If not, and we have a second on that, did we?
Yeah, second roll call.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagangas?
Yes.
Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all so much.
Moving on to the Carter Park fee schedule. Yeah, that's a good one. The containers. Mhm. Maybe just a Butler building. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council and community. Karen Decker, Interim Deputy City Manager. And tonight you see before you a proposed fee schedule for Carter Park following its recent renovations. So this evening, staff is requesting adoption of a tiered fee schedule and direction to monitor usage and return with adjustments as needed. This allows us to launch with a clear structure while remaining flexible over time. As you know, Carter Park has been transformed into a flexible event space for performances and community gatherings. And with that investment, it's important to establish a fee structure that ensures fair access and operational sustainability and clarity for users. This slide shows where Carter Park fits inside the broader market. When you see that first bullet, small local venues, that's in reference to places like restaurants and gardens. Luxury venues are often tied to large food and beverage minimums that can put a wedding or other event into 6 figures easily. Our proposed pricing positions Carter Park as an affordable alternative to private venues while still reflecting its value as a coastal destination. In terms of public benchmarking, when we look specifically at public agencies, Foster City and San Francisco amphitheaters provided the closest comparisons. We also looked across the region. We looked at Orinda. We looked at San Mateo County and larger venues like Morgan Hill. Carter Park consistently falls in that middle tier, which is how we've priced it here. And this confirms Carter Park is best positioned between a neighborhood park and a high-demand regional venue. Putting Carter Park in further context, based on this analysis, we're recommending a mid-tier civic model. And this approach prioritizes community access. It aligns with regional benchmarks. It reflects coastal value and avoids underpricing a high-value public asset. And this would put our typical daily use fee of around $1,000 to $2,500. The proposed structure is tiered by user type, and this allows us to subsidize community and nonprofit use. It allows us to recover more costs from private events and charge closer to market rates for commercial activities. We also provide here an hourly, half-day, and full-day option to maintain that flexibility with a modest discount if you opt for a full day. In addition to base rental fees, we include standard cost recovery tools, which are very common in venues like this. So there's a flat application fee, there's a deposit, $300 for nonprofits, $500 for others. We account for staffing time, for overtime, setup and tear down, cleaning, insurance, typical cost recovery. And this ensures the city is not subsidizing higher impact events. So we'll be treating it on a case-by-case basis, looking at occupancy and impact and complexity of each event. Also, we identified optional tools that the council might want to consider in the future, including capacity-based pricing and commercial revenue sharing, where the city could potentially receive a percentage of event revenue in addition to a flat fee if you so choose to look at a further policy. But I think it will be valuable to gauge utilization over the next 12 to 18 months so that we can gauge those kind of decisions. So we think this balances access and market alignment and fiscal sustainability. It activates Carter Park as a community asset. And in 2021, at the height of the pandemic, I took my 4-year-old to the park and I said, "You're gonna go to concerts here with your friends and plays." And Jack, I kept my promise. And I'm here to answer any questions and welcome any comments. Thank you.
Who would like to begin?
I have one question that Paulette called me and she told me, a reminder about full comprehensive donor program for Carter Park, including sponsorship and plaques. So she wanted to make sure, and I agree with that. We talked about this before. Yeah. And you've got like Joe Cotchett, who might be, and he said he would consider, you know, that the TV, and then put his name somewhere, right? So I want to make sure that's in the discussion. I know it's not in this, right?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that gets involved.
Sure.
And then the other one is I got a phone call from Rick Hernandez's wife, who's on the Planning Commission, Hillary, about the fees for when she does her square dancing, and she was comparing it to like OPL versus, which is free or something, versus here it's going to cost a certain amount. And she's saying it's not really valid for me to even think about Carter Park because it's too much. So, I mean, did she bring that up to you at all?
She didn't. The challenge would be she couldn't really bring that up in the context of being a planning commissioner. There's a conflict of interest there.
So here's something that's really popular, but yet for her to put it on at Carter Park, it would cost too much. So I think it's cheaper for her to do it here, but it'd be nice to do it there. And that was one of the things that she brought up that I thought was valid. But I think this is a great thing that we should be doing, and the fees didn't seem too bad, and I'm hoping that this will take off. We need to promote, we need to get our, you know, our social media and all that stuff, because I could see, you know, people renting it for a concert or something. I'd like to do that because the fees weren't that bad. It would be great for a party or whatever.
Yeah.
Would that include also, let's say, you know, on the left side of Carter Park, for let's say if you wanted to have a barbecue or something, could you do something like that if you rented that park? Like have some, like Nano's barbecuing while you're having music. Would you be able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think it's great.
We could get a skid steer attachment that's like rotisserie based, right?
Yeah, an attachment.
Todd, do they have those? To Todd? No.
A barbecue attachment. All right. Councilmember Naggingast.
Thank you, Karen. Did you, I don't know who you think the intended renters will be, or you just don't know yet. You know, I appreciate you wanting to come back if necessary, which is great, because I always think a lot of these things are fluid. Sometimes you just don't know who's there. My question, I always ask this one about parking. So how do we tell people, I didn't see anything in the report necessarily about when they rent, do you tell them where the parking has to be, or do you say, look, accessible as wherever that's supposed to be versus whether they can, could they ever even use the parking where the restaurants are up on top? Or do you tell them absolutely not? But what if they said, well, I'm going to go eat at the restaurant first and then go to the park?
Yeah, I mean, I know that parking was looked at comprehensively when Carter Park was in its initial phase before, 60% drawings and whatnot. There was a study done at the time, and the conclusion was in general that there was ample parking. There was discussion that, there wasn't prior precedent because it was such an underutilized park, right? At least it was in the Parks Master Plan. So if usage were to dramatically go up, there was consideration of looking at potential shuttle bus services that could be parked at Half Moon Bay High School. I have to say Mariners Church and the post office, at least when I was doing, active outreach for the beginning of the project, very receptive about weekend usage when they're not busy, working around that availability, have just been great partners. But yeah, I think this speaks to a larger issue in terms of looking at parking downtown whenever we're looking at activation.
So what do we tell people if they want to rent a park?
So our current practice, and would be continued with this, it depends on the event and the expectations, but it's clear that there is no on-site parking dedicated to this park. For the time being, the Stone Pine Shopping Center remains off limits. The owner of that property and the businesses there are very, very resistant to that parking lot being utilized for this. Luckily, we have great neighbors that have partnered with us, but that has to be done on a case-by-case basis. So that's a consideration when someone comes to look at the venue and wants to use it. They have to understand that, and we will give them guidance on, if you want to have a big event, part of it is you got to manage not allowing people into the parking lot, which is something we do for Summer's End and other events. You need to work with the neighbors, which we could broker, to get an agreement to allow parking, and there's a lot of different ways that happens. But generally, the goal is park downtown and walk down Main Street and come, which hopefully is also a boon to the businesses. And then, of course, we arrange for the ADA parking, which you have to be able to provide.
Right. So I just want to make sure we are telling people about the parking there, or I don't want to say lack of parking. There's parking, but not where everybody thinks they're going to park. So. Right.
And that's true of many, many of the venues that we looked at that were also operated by public agencies. Most of the time, there wasn't a convenient parking lot. San Francisco, Orinda, we're just going to have to be upfront about that.
Right. Okay. And then come back to us, I guess, if it's a problem, or, I guess we'll know if people are paying attention to it or not, but still come back to us to let us know.
Yeah, this is a little off topic, the parking issue.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, that's part of renting it out, is where you telling people to park if they're renting the park.
Yeah. Well, I think we can leave that there.
The church next door.
Yeah, right, yeah. So I think that's been answered. I agree with Patrick. Looking at the fee structure, I think it looks pretty good to me, and I think you did a lot of good due diligence around that. And, we'll kind of learn by doing. So if we do more commercial, that might be an opportunity to recover more costs, et cetera. But I do agree that the sponsorship piece is really important. And we need a sponsorship program. That needs to be the next piece here. I understand from talking to a couple of people on the Parks and Rec Commission that the Lions Club is really interested in doing some sponsorships. And
they're going to be one of our sponsors for Summer's End this year.
Yeah, so I don't want to turn anybody away. If they have ideas and want to contribute money or contribute activity, then we need to look, closely at that. But I wouldn't wait too long to do the sponsorship thing, because that's going to be part of the, supporting the operations in a sustainable way. So, right, yeah, and that's a concern to them too. So, and I know they approved this fee schedule, so that's good. Yeah. So. I will ask if there's anybody in the public, doesn't look like it, who wants to address this item. Anybody online? Oh, come on up, Nancy.
Okay, Nancy Fontana again. Sorry. I know I've mentioned it before, and I think this is a good time to bring it up again, is the on the insurance for these small groups that might want to rent the park. Sometimes they might have insurance, but not for that type of use. And when they go to their insurance carrier, it's exorbitant, or they won't even touch it. So I don't know if the city's pursued it at all with your insurance carrier of arranging to have, oh gosh, now I'm blanking out on the term. You know, with this, that doesn't cost the city anything, but it's special events insurance. You arrange it through, the city arranges it through their insurance carrier, and it's made available to participants that want to, you know, rent something from the city or insure the city. I'm not saying this right. Okay, for example, in San Mateo, the downtown Central Park, they'd have the Italian group would have a big event. They'd have different people coming in to do stuff. Some of them had to provide their own insurance, and the city had it available. They had to fill out a form, and then the insurance company would give them a quote on what the insurance would be for that one event. And for some places that don't have insurance or that it wasn't covered, it worked out well for them. And they asked things like, is there going to be alcohol? How many people? I mean, it would make a big difference if they were having axe throwing versus, you know, guitar playing, you know, stuff like that. So it's something to consider in your package, not your fees, but when you make the insurance requirements, just to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for that. Anybody online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving a tiered fee schedule for car park and direct staff to monitor utilization and return with adjustments as needed.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Mayor Reddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're moving on to item 11G, Agreement for Law Enforcement Services with County of San Mateo Sheriff's Office. I just want to point out this is a feedback item. It's not, approving the contract now. It's to take input from the council, questions, concerns, et cetera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will keep a very brief report just to give a little bit of background for everybody, and then happy to take your feedback. Thank you, Karen. So as you know, the city used to have its own police department, but it was dissolved in 2011, and at that time the city put out an RFP, and there were a couple of respondents, and the sheriff's office was selected as the most reasonable and effective partner, and we've had a partnership with them for 15 years now. The original agreement, which was executed in 2011, has been amended 17 times, and it actually expired at the end of the previous fiscal year. And normally we would have worked to amend that agreement before expiration and continue that agreement. For obvious reasons, there were some challenges happening at the sheriff's office at the time, and they weren't in a position to negotiate an extension. And so the existing agreement has just been followed both in payment and in services by the sheriff's office. The county appointed a new sheriff in November of last year, and they have been working to restaff and deal with some of these administrative issues. An important note is there are 4 other contract cities that receive services from the sheriff's office beyond the unincorporated areas of the county. And we remain in contact with these cities to talk about issues and negotiating points as we think about the future of our contract. contract. Our hope has always been, and we had discussed that once a new sheriff was in place, that we'd have the opportunity to sit down. We do have a public safety subcommittee of the city council, and that through that subcommittee, we'd be able to sit down with the sheriff's office and before entering into an extension, talk about the contract, talk about needs, and negotiate something that really fit the needs of Half Moon Bay. Unfortunately, the sheriff's office right now is very focused on cleanup, and so what they've provided to us is a consolidated document, which I'm very happy about. I have a binder that sits in my office, and it literally has the original agreement and 17 amendments, and it's marked up like crazy because I have to connect the dots to what still applies and what doesn't. So an agreement that has been consolidated into a single document is a great benefit, so I'm grateful for that. But they've also standardized it. They want the same contract with the same language for all of the contract cities, which doesn't reflect what we were looking for, which is some specialized needs and things that are specific to our community. And by standardizing it, they also simplified it. And unfortunately, it removed several of the special conditions that we have worked on over the years to include. A couple of examples. One that's okay that was removed was specific reference to working with the CARES program and making sure it was successful. And of course, they did that, and the CARES program was successful. That's been discontinued. And so removing that is okay. But we had language about doing some specific special events to connect the community with our law enforcement to build those relationships, language about our festivals and the work that they do related to those. Special traffic control we talked about today with, our special needs around the tourism and hot weather events. What they've explained to me is that though they've removed all of this specific language, the intent was to give more authority to the local bureau chief to work with the city manager and the city council on specific needs and be more flexible. That's not reflected in this document. I've pointed that out to them, and I've asked them to consider adding language and a process so that we can be assured that when we have special needs and special requests, that can be honored. I will say in practice, with or without this agreement, I've been able to do that with Chief Allen and previous chiefs, and we've been able to get, the special beach patrols, the Polaris out on the beach, other special things, but I would really like to see that documented in the agreement so that we have a process for doing that. What they're proposing is a 4-year extension beginning July 1st of this year and extending through June 30th of 2030. It would have the ability for us or them to terminate on 1 year's notice. It's really a year plus because we'd want that to fall on an anniversary date. There are some conditions around finances and other things where we could terminate more quickly if we needed to. And the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget is a little over $7 million. It's hard to compare that apples to apples because of the way it's articulated. There's kind of two budgets we look at. They provide the overall budget, and then we back out a credit that we get for contributions to pensions. And so in our normal budget each year, we reflect that net amount with the credit. They also want to get away from that. We would still get the credit and it's still in the contract, but they want to reflect the full amount of the cost. I'm not sure why they want to do that, but from an apples to apples comparison, it would be confusing if a person went and looked at our budget right now and compared to last year. But apples to apples, we're looking at about a 10% increase year over year from the current fiscal year in budget, and that's related to negotiated increase to the staffing of the sheriff's office. The other thing I'll share, most of you know this, but I just want to make sure it's clear. We receive a budget at the beginning of the year. We pay equal installments towards that budget. At the end of the fiscal year, they do a reconciliation of what it actually costs to provide services. And year over year, we get a credit, and it goes into an account that they hold for us. That account currently has over $1 million in it. 2 years ago, we withdrew a big chunk of that to help with our budget issues and to replenish reserves. That's always an option that remains. But the point of explaining that is the budgeted amount almost never reflects the actual cost of doing services, but I appreciate in a conservative approach because we do not want to owe them money at the end of each fiscal year. So you've seen the staff report, you've seen some of the things that were removed. I've met with the sheriff's office a few times since publishing the staff report to get some clarifications. I think there are more meetings to have before we bring this back, probably the second meeting in June for approval. And so I'm looking for feedback on other things that we should be considering or other concerns. And with that, I'll turn the time back over to you.
Very much. Who would like to go first?
So to me, it looks like just a standard agreement. I guess that's what are they doing this with all the 4 other cities, just to have the standard? And then the Exhibit A, is that where it gets specific to each individual, or no?
No.
Everybody else's Exhibit A looks the same? Because did you know that Section 5.2 says they're going to put our city's logo on their patrol cars?
Yes, we talked about that.
They're going to do that?
That's part of my feedback. It says that they will. It should be revised to they may. And then that would be up to us. If we want our logo on the vehicle, we could. That's something that came from another city that they
Because I assume
provide.
they, unlike maybe other locations, we share unincorporated, and I assume they just go back and forth.
They do, but there are specific vehicles assigned to this substation versus those assigned. For me, this is something we could talk about in the future. There's some things I like about having our logo
on there. It makes it, look. I don't know if Millbrae does that. Is that?
I think San Carlos is the one that has always done that, and so they included this language as an option.
I think that looks good. Also, it says the substation is 501 Main Street.
Yeah, they're going to correct that in the next version.
Are they also took over City Hall?
No, they're going to correct that in the next version. Yes.
But. And then there was really nothing else in here. It was pretty...
The entire contract from beginning to end would be standardized other than a few of those specific references, location of the substation, cost of services.
Right. Well, I might ask the mayor that I think I'd be interested in if there is the council committee or subcommittee to work on, especially these items they took away are all near and dear to us.
So I'm very concerned about the things they took away. And, I would recommend that we recommend to them the approach used in like the local hazard mitigation plan, where each city has its own annex, meaning, a separate document that's attached to the main document. The countywide thing has what they call annexes for each of the cities and has different things applying to each of the cities. So I want all that stuff in there. And I think using the annex approach is one way to do that. I mean, there's only 5 cities altogether who are contract cities. Seems to me a pretty simple thing. But one of the things I've been thinking about is having, I think we have 2 relevant council subcommittees that could look at this issue. There's the Public Safety Committee, which is Councilmember Brownstone and Councilmember Johnson. And then we have the Finance Committee, which is Councilmember Nagengast and myself. So we could have a little discussion about, which subcommittee do you think might dig a little deeper into this? Maybe even talk to the other cities about the annex approach or whatever. You might have your own ideas. But I think I would like to have one of the subcommittees dig into this more. And I'm open to hearing which subcommittee you think is more appropriate here, whether it's public safety or, the Finance Committee is going to be busy on the budget.
It's such a big amount, a major point, a major part of our budget. Yeah. And I feel that I mean, first I was thinking of public safety because it's police, but Finance Committee is looking at all the rest of the budget and figuring out, well, what's really reasonable. I mean, it looked like if it's a 4-year budget, but it assumes increase about a 9-point-something increase each year. Is that what that was saying?
No. So it varies year to year. I would say other than some big jumps when they did the audits maybe 5 years ago, it averages about 6% per year. But they had a negotiated increase that bumped this one up. They cannot tell us what it'll be year to year, but it'll probably be between 5 and 10% per year. Yes.
Okay. So let's say minimally it would be an extra $500,000 per year minimally based on those numbers. Anyway, that's a lot of money, just saying. Yeah. 7.5, then 8 million, then 9 million, 10 million. So maybe start out with the Finance Committee and then see if you think, there's something public safety can contribute on that. But again, it's such a big part of our budget. Also, it saves, eventually it would have to end up in finance also.
Homework on all this, but yeah, I mean, give me what you want me to look at and I will do it.
Finance Committee, public safety.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's pretty specialized, but finance, we'll look at it too. And I don't know, almost maybe the safety committee preps it for the finance committee. Maybe we look at it that way. Because this is a big chunk of our budget. It definitely is. And it needs, are we only looking at to approve the basic contract this year, and then the council group will work on it throughout the coming year, and then we can add an amendment to the contract or an annex, if that's what we call it?
I mean, I think there is time for us, the sheriff's office is extremely responsive under this current administration, and I have had no issues scheduling meetings with them. So I think there's an opportunity to try to push for some of that in this budget before we approve this document in a month. The other thing I might suggest to expedite that is rather than using a standing city council subcommittee, which are Brown Act, and we have to notice, and we could create an ad hoc for just the sheriff's contract, which would give it, allow us to schedule meetings much more quickly and make it more nimble. So that's another option as well.
I know that you're pretty busy. How would you feel about maybe an ad hoc consisting of Councilmember Brownstone and Councilmember Nagengast taking a look? Would you be okay with that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you guys be willing to do that? Okay, I'm going to recommend an ad hoc committee of council members Nagengast and Brownstone take a look and bring us some ideas. Okay? All right.
Mayor, can we get some clarity on the direction for the ad hoc? So bring ideas on revisions, potential revisions to the agreement?
Yes.
Okay, including a potential addendum or annex document at the end specific to Half Moon Bay?
Yes, I'm guessing that'll be the primary task, but, just reviewing in general the proposed agreement. I mean, the 9.1%, I'm guessing is not too far off, but we want to make sure we're getting all the same things and getting it firm.
Yeah, I'll say the fee is not negotiable because as they have government code that requires them to get full cost recovery. And so their rates are set, and it's kind of a take it or leave it with them. So really the option to negotiate is going to be on the other terms of the agreement. Yeah.
That would be the job of the ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
So these things that said need discussion, which were included in the previous contract, is that more or less assumed it's in this part of the $7 million one?
Yeah, based on my meetings with them since, because we only got this draft contract last Wednesday, so we were moving quick on it, but I've already met with them twice on this since then, and based on those conversations, their intent for most of these was not to take this service away. It was to allow that to be more directly negotiated with the chief and arranged with the chief, but what I'm hearing, and I don't disagree with, is maybe there's an approach where we can still include it in the contract, but include it as a separate annex that is specific to us, or some other document. So when we meet with the ad hoc, if we create it tonight, then I can fill you in, and again, they're happy to sit down and discuss these in more detail. They've provided that for me multiple times already.
Okay, all right. It's a good idea.
Okay. And the last thing I'll share is going back to where we had hoped to go with a renewal of this contract is, we still have the opportunity with this ad hoc or with one of those standing committees to do some additional exploration of alternatives to the sheriff's office, alternative approaches to this. I think that's always been the desire is, it's been 15 years. I think we're happy with where things are at with the sheriff's office right now. There's a lot of benefits that come from working with the sheriff's office, but 15 years is a long time and probably a chance to take a step back and explore this more broadly. And in my discussion with them, that's where they say, well, that's, you can terminate on 1 year's notice if that's something you want to do. So I think that still gives us the flexibility to do that exploration during that time period.
Madam Mayor, but we talked about this. You said I think you brought up the fact that if we were to try to go back to having our in-house police station, it would cost twice as much as what you said.
I don't know if twice as much as the number, but
you said it was it wouldn't even add up.
We over my time here in the last 9 years, about every 2 years, we do some sort of analysis of what similar sized cities are paying for their police departments, and it's always significantly more than what we pay the sheriff's office. There's just economies of scale we get from the sheriff's office we wouldn't get on our own. But there is an opportunity to dig in deeper with the council and look at other opportunities and alternatives.
I guess my question, I know it's late, my brain's not working, but what other options are there?
Well, that's exactly what we could talk about with an ad hoc is, is there something in between our own police department and the sheriff's office that might provide a creative solution? So, yeah.
I think we're done with this item. So, are there any possible future agenda items?
Did we have to formally create an ad hoc committee?
Yeah, so that's what we were discussing. So I don't believe we took public comment on the prior item, so we need to do that, but also then to have a formal motion to create the ad hoc.
Okay. So is there anybody in the room who would like to address the item, the public safety item? Seeing none, is there anybody online who would like to address the contract, the sheriff's contract? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for a motion.
Just to create the ad hoc. Correct.
To create the ad hoc committee. No, you go ahead.
I move that we create an ad hoc committee to provide direction on next steps, any recommended changes for negotiating our agreement with the Sheriff's Department, consisting of Councilmember Nagengast and Councilmember Brownstone. What else should I add to that?
That's sufficient. I think if that covers the direction from the council.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Items for future discussion, possible agenda items. Anybody have ideas? Okay. Any council reports under item 13? Okay.
Earlier today in public forum, it was mentioned about the Shamarita, this year it's a Memorial Day weekend, so there's 3 days. Actually it's Friday night, Saturday, and then all day. Sunday's usually the big one, but we get a bonus day. This year's Monday. And on Monday, there's going to be a chance to dunk a council member. And that will happen 1:30 to 2:30 over at the IDS Hall. I believe that one's Boys and Girls Club is doing it. They mentioned collaborating, Boys and Girls Club and another, what was the other group? Do you remember? I don't. But maybe the high school, right? The wrestlers or something, we're going to do something. So, but I know there's a council member that maybe the community would like to dunk on, and we'll be there. Remember, you throw it at the target, not the council member.
I've been practicing.
By the way, that's me, the council member that's going to be there.
Anybody else have a city council report? Okay. We're going to adjourn this meeting tonight in honor of Al Andravino for all he's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. It's only 10:30. That's good.